Test. Welcome to the August 19th meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. said that a person's mind stretched by new ideas may never return to its original dimensions. As we share together in our traditional moment of silence, I would ask that you remember the names of fifth grader Larissa Manhima and Radasia Williams. Radasia Williams was the mother who was tragically murdered last week on a JCBS bus stop, and Larissa was a fifth grade student in Auburn. So shall we now share our traditional moment of silence? Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chief Carolyn Callahan will present tonight's recognitions at this time.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. As we all know, great things happen every day inside every JCPS school. And this is one way that we get to recognize some of those great things happening and the people that ensure that those great things are happening. So tonight, first, we are recognizing our new JCPS principals for this year. We all know that principal leadership is essential to the educational success of all students, and we are proud to recognize the following new principals. Mark Mina, Hudson Middle School 6th Grade Academy. Jasmine Thornton, Westport Early Childhood Center. Lakeisha Burton, Kenwood Elementary School. Tori Martin, Wilder Elementary School. Kim Coleman, Bick Elementary School. Uriah Tolbert, Indian Trail Elementary School. Adrian Titus, Fern Creek Elementary School. Samantha Miller, Lincoln Elementary School. And Heather Horter, Marion C. Moore School. Congratulations. Congratulations, and thank you for all you do. Next, tonight, we are recognizing our 11 students who won National Merit Scholarships. Now, we do acknowledge that most, if not all, have already left for college. We do want to recognize them. We are sending information and congratulations to them as well, but we wanted to be sure to recognize them on this stage as well. So these 11 students from 3 of our high schools have earned one of the most prestigious academic honors in the country, which is the National Merit Scholarship. So those congratulations go to Taylor Lynn Thompson from Ballard High School, the following students from DuPont Manual: Nathaniel Ice, Mia Wynn, Ashley Billitner, Preston Harmon, Neil Patil, Joseph Peoples, Milas Ozzy Yurikoglu, Kalp Palyadia, Lucy Vanderhoff, and from Eastern High School, Mero Naha. And so we do want to welcome DuPont Manual's principal is here to accept on behalf of all of those students. Thank you so much. Next, please join me in recognizing 4 JCPS athletic directors who have been named and recognized for their outstanding leadership and support of student athletes and athletic programs throughout JCPS. First, our Kentucky Athletic Administrators Association Athletic Directors of the Year: Joe Shepard from Eastern High School and Larry Just from Butler Traditional High School. And our JCPS Athletic Directors of the Year: Nick Waddell from PRP High School and Ray Lockwood from Westport Middle School. Thank you so much for all you do for our student athletes and our athletics throughout JCPS. Congratulations. Next, tonight, we are recognizing the JCPS Finance Division for winning the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. The division has won this national award for the 18th year in a row. It is presented for the district's annual comprehensive financial report and is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. And this award represents extensive work by the Finance Division, particularly Executive Administrator Cecil Comstock and Supervisor Shani Hilliard. Thank you so much. Next tonight, we are recognizing Southern High School for its Solidarity Project that supported nearly 200 families this summer. Southern students and staff and others as well, they stepped up in a major way. They supported almost 2,000 people through the Southern High School Solidarity Project throughout the summer. Students, staff, volunteers, they gathered weekly and they sorted supplies and assembly care packages for families in need throughout Louisville, and they delivered those packages out throughout the community. We want to give a huge shout out to the staff leader, Mario Ranson, and we also want to thank Catholic Charities, Kentucky Refugee Ministries, the Academy at Shawnee, Fairdale, Southern, Newcomer, Fern Creek, and Bowen, and so many others that took part in this all summer long, and they're not stopping. Mario just said to me, I can't stop. We're still going. There's more to do. So incredible work. Thank you all so much for all that you do. And then our final recognition tonight is for the Brown School and DuPont Manual. These schools were recently named Spotlight Schools by the Kentucky Department of Education. It is an honor given to only 11 schools across the Commonwealth. This recognition highlights schools that exemplify exceptional academic performance, innovative practices, and strong commitment to student success. As KDE Spotlight Schools, Brown and Manual will serve as models of excellence by sharing their effective strategies and best practices with schools throughout Kentucky. Thank you so much for all you do. Congratulations, and we can't wait to see the work that you do. Thank you so much. That concludes tonight's recognitions.
Thank you, Chief Callahan. There is one additional recognition that I think must be made. Today is a very special day. It is the birthday of the lovely Miss Duncan. Happy birthday, Miss Duncan. She didn't want me to tell you, but she turns 25, and we wish you a happy birthday and many.
At least.
Is there a motion to receive the recognitions? Mr. Craig, seconded by Ms. Duncan, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Mr. Craig, seconded by Ms. Strange, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 29th and August 6th? Ms. Lister, seconded by Mr. Everett, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. H. Brian Yearwood for his superintendent's report.
Still learning, okay. All right. Thank you again, esteemed board members, President Schul, for the opportunity to present to you this evening. You know, as we look at the report today, it has a lot to do with our goals, has a lot to do with, you know, things that I've seen and a bit I've learned as I have been visiting with the community who ask for greater transparency, especially with our data. And over the past 50 days, you know, I've been in listening and learning towards immersing myself, I call it, in the incredible work happening across our district. And my goal tonight is to share a clear and honest picture of where we are, and to not only share, but to chart a bold path forward together. It has been 35 working days, 50 days, including weekends. Well, and let's be honest, it's been basically been 7 days a week, 18 to 20 hours a day, but who's counting, right? It's all in the fun. So I want to start off with, a vision, which is our next slide. Very much, your vision is clear. We want every single student to graduate prepared. We want every student to be empowered, inspired. But to get there, to realize this, we must be honest, and we must be transparent about our challenges, but we must also be united in our solutions. So let's talk a bit about, next slide, our mission. We talk about how we're going to get there by challenging and engaging our students. And again, this is no easy task. Although it seems simple, this is a task that requires purposeful action. Next slide. Always want to talk about our core values. What do we value? We talk about the environments that we want to create. Schools, a caring, environment, one that has equity built in as a stronghold, as a foundation. And then we talk about all the other core values, which I think are very honorable and ones that we should be paying attention to. Next slide. So now let's dive a bit into the data. I want to talk more about the data, especially our most recent district data. And I want us to remember, it's not just about numbers. It's not about numbers. It's about our students and that shared responsibility to help them succeed. So again, this is I call it ground zero, and from here, we should be talking about launching up. So let's look at the numbers. As we look at this slide, notice here that there are about 95,000 students pre-K through 12, and the largest group is our African American students, about 36%, 34,570 are in that group. They're the largest group we have here in JCPS. The second is our white students at 32.8%, or 31,000. Now, the percentage of African American and white students, although similar, there are some differences in the next few slides when it comes to student outcomes for these two groups. But we must not forget, 67% are on free and reduced lunch, 22% are multilingual learners, right? Close to 21,000 students. 14% of our students are students with disabilities, 13,000. But like we said in our vision statement, all means all. Regardless of disability, regardless of wherever they land, we must educate all students. That's a promise that we have made. Next slide. So I wanted to look at what are we doing to measure success in our districts? What instruments do we have? And we have a whole host of things. So looking at the SAT, we're looking at access for L's. There are a whole series of things that we look at. And this was shown in the June meeting, so I'm not going to spend time going through this when we spent time with going through this in our guardrail number 5. But one thing I want us to pay attention to is that the total time we spend on testing, right, is about 2% of our instructional time. And that's where we want to keep it. We're not about testing or over-testing. We're about ensuring we take temperature tests, that we take progress measures to ensure that our students are making the progress that they should in the academic environment. So looking at this, the first one I want to talk to tonight is our proficiency rates in reading. So this slide shows the assessment results for the last 2 years. We anticipate that the next round of scores should be out in mid to late November. The red line that we see across is actually the state average. And I say this, that should be our floor, not our ceiling. And as you look at this data, we are somewhat falling below this line, but I want us to talk a little bit about this for a minute. Students who are proficient in reading usually understand what they read. It's not saying they don't understand what they're reading. We're not saying they're that deficient. It says that they're able to do things like explain the main ideas, make connections to text, and they may show the deeper level of detail that the highest levels of readers do also, and that they are also on track to meet grade level standards. But let's be real. Overall, our students are about 10% below the state average. But moving forward, our aspirational goals, our intentionality is to be above state average. And there's some nuances to that. Okay, next slide. This shows our subgroup breakdown, and I hope you can see this is somewhat small. There are wide ranges of performance here, but most groups are still below the average except for multilingual learners. We have to pay attention to this because we must be able to get all groups above our state averages. And notice here the disparities in scores as we look at our different subgroups. Although our African American population is the majority, they're still in the minority as far as academic performance is concerned. We have to confront that. We have to confront that. Also, as we look at our other subgroups, our white students are still performing below state average. So we have a ship that we must rise, that we must be able to move up. So it's not just, it means that we have to be intentional about where we are going on our academics to make sure all students are receiving that quality education that, and we continue that process. Next slide. Math. We look at our math. Elementary, middle, and high school averages, right? Proficiency rates, still below our state averages. And we have work to do. Still about 10 points on an average, but moving forward, right? We will get above state averages. But we have to, again, know our data. We have to be able to know exactly where we are if we're going to improve our data. Next slide. Again, this is a breakdown, and again, still falling below. But again, look at the differences in the different subgroups as far as their performances are concerned on these proficiency rates. So remember, this is but one measure, but this is the measure that the state says we will measure you by. This is what the state tells us. We will let Kentucky, we let everyone know this is where you stand academically, right? But we have such great things happening in there. But this is one measure. But this is one measure that we will overcome together. Next slide. I want to talk about growing students. You've heard me say time and time again, it's important that we have a year's worth of growth in a year for our students. And that is happening. That is happening. If you look at the growth measures that we have here, right? This goal is the same as the board goal number 4. So when a third grader meets their growth goal and or reaches the 50th percentile on the MAP growth reading test, they're making expected growth year over year. That means that they're performing at or above the national average for students in the same grade level. So we are seeing growth. And notice that the proficiency rates, although basically it's a measurement that says, okay, you've crossed the finish line, this means that our students are growing. And this is very encouraging. So you can say, 60% or more of our students are growing and are expected to achieve benchmark. Next slide. These are the subgroups. And again, although we see our students growing, there still continues to be some disparities in our growth measures that we need to pay attention to. It's very telling here, especially if we notice over 2 and 3 year periods, our numbers are moving in the negative direction. We should be seeing those moving up, and we will be talking more and more about that in our teams as we meet academics division. Next. Math. Growth. Our students are growing. We look at our growth goals as we move through our 8th grade. This is our 8th grade students in particular. Back in 23, we were growing at 58. Now we're at 63. So again, there's some celebrations in here. This is not all daunting. Things are happening. Next slide. And of course, these are our groups. Seeing a little bit better growth in math, 8th grade math, right? For different subgroups. This is where we're beginning to see things beginning to somewhat get better. But this is a trend that we need to duplicate in all grade levels. So if we're doing it in 8th, we should be able to do it in the grade levels below. Next. So I wanted to, for a minute, talk about overall. So what we are seeing here is that many of our students are not yet reaching proficiency in reading and math, and our scores are below state average, while we see some bright spots. Particularly with our Asian students, significant gaps thus persist with our African American students or Hispanic students and multilingual students and students with disabilities. This is our most urgent call to action. We must come together to have a laser focus, or continue to have a laser focus on our academic outcomes, because our promise is that we will do better for every child. And I know we will. I know we will get there. Another metric I want to talk about is our attendance. Chronically absent absenteeism. A student is considered chronically absent if they miss 10% or more of the school year. This includes absences, whether they're excused or unexcused. So for an average school year, this works out to be about 2 days of missed school per month. That's why it's important that we get students to school and have them stay in school, in seat. The research is out there. When a child is chronically absent, they're 3 times likely to not be successful in their academic endeavors. We don't want to set children up for failure. We want to set them up for success. So again, this is where we are. Middle schools, chronically absent, ended with 26.7, elementary schools, 26.7, middle, 35.5, high school, 46.2. But notice here, the numbers are going down. They're trending in the right direction. We're seeing less and less students being chronically absent. We need to keep going on that trend. Next slide. We see very similar patterns of improvement in our different subgroups. Yes, we do want to reduce, but as we look at our African American subgroups being in the 40s, Hispanic in the 30s, or white students in the 30s, and so on, we want to see a total reduction here, and we'll be talking about that in just a minute. Next slide. Another key issue that we hear about is our discipline overall. Again, the trends are moving down in elementary and middle, but it remains somewhat high in our high schools. So again, overall decrease since 2023 is there, but our volume is high. The number of referrals, this actually represents a number of referrals, is high. And we'll be talking about this and addressing this. Okay. So we have opportunity here to strengthen behavior supports and our proactive classroom strategies. And I think they're working. They're things that are happening. Let's look at our referrals by student group. Next slide. Again, if you look at this slide, we see a definite disparity between our referrals for African American students and our other groups. And we have to address that. We have to put it out there and we have to talk about that. What can we do better so that we can ensure that all students, including African American groups, are not excessively referred? I'm not here before you to say we don't refer, we don't discipline. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But what else are we missing? What else have we tried? What else has been successful? What does the research show us? We have to work together on this. Slide. Out of school suspensions. These are times that students do need to be out of the school environment for certain behaviors. And we want to look at this. Look at the numbers of out of school suspensions we have for elementary, middle, and high school. Numbers remain concentrated in middle and high schools. And of course, elementary, although lower, we see a somewhat of a slight uptick. We have to be aware of this data. We have to know, hey, this is where we are trending because we need more and more students in school. Next. And again, we look at the data here. Which subgroup do we see being suspended the most? So African American students. Very, very clear disparity in this. We have to talk through that as a team. We have to be aware of this. Not to hide or put our head in the sand, no. But to be able to talk to this and be able to improve this data, which is what we will be focusing on and we will be getting. As a result of this, result of talking, as a result of looking at these things, you know, we're seeing that there are encouraging trends in our certain behaviors. Over the past 2 years, we've seen significant decrease in behavior referrals across all levels. Suspensions, although steady, our goal is to keep students in classrooms where they can learn and grow. And this positive momentum in this area, we will continue to build upon. So let's talk about what are some things that are commitments to growth that we need to pay attention to based on the data. We are setting clear, we're setting ambitious, we're setting measurable goals for the coming year. And this is our promise to our students, our families, and our community that we'll be talking about from here going forward. The first one, improving third grade reading, because we know students aren't reading at or above grade level. When they leave third grade, they tend to struggle academically. It doesn't mean that they can't do well. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's an academic struggle that occurs. So our first is to work together towards a proposed 3% increase in students meeting their reading benchmarks. This would mean moving from about 4,300 to 4,491 minimally. I'm talking about minimal growth. We want way past that. I get that. But we have to start somewhere, right? We must be able to set those attainable goals. Next, 8th grade math. I propose we focus on 3% increase in 8th graders meeting math goals. This will take us from 3,900 to 4,100 plus. I'm also proposing partnering to find solutions for chronic absentees, with a goal being proposed of a 3% reduction, which would mean helping over 900 more students get to school regularly. That's a start. That's a minimal. We want way more than that. Improving school culture. So we should be looking at ways to collaborate to find effective strategies to reduce behavior incidents. So a 5% reduction would mean nearly 7,000 fewer referrals and over 1,100 fewer suspensions. I'm talking about minimal expectations. We want to get way past that, but we must have minimal expectations to get us going, keeping more students in a positive learning environment. So again, you know, how will we get there? What are we going to focus in on? Next slide. First of all, building stronger connections. We will partner with our students. We will partner with our families to create a true sense of belonging in our school. And there's more to come with this. We'll also talk about creating high expectations for all. This is where we believe in the potential of every child and providing that rigorous support they need to meet and exceed high standards. We'll also be looking at improving our core instruction. We will invest in our teachers, ensuring they have the tools and training to deliver a world-class instruction in every classroom. It's happening, but again, we need more. Next, implement high-quality instructional resources and materials to ensure that our students or teachers have access to the best, most effective curriculum and resources. So again, these are some ambitious goals. These are where we want to move forward. And with these ambitious goals, we should start seeing growth. We should start seeing our students moving in a positive direction, reducing discipline outcomes and increasing academics. We have the ability, we have the talent, we have the know-how, and we will be talking more about the data. I know as I meet with principals and teachers and leaders, I've already met with principals and already shared some of this with them. We'll continue to have those conversations because my belief is that JCPS will become a destination district. My belief is that we will rise and be that, I call it, icon of academia here in Kentucky, because we have the ingredients, we have the staff, we have the teachers, we have the ingredients to get there, and we will get there together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yearwood. Well, that tees us right up for our goal monitoring report on goals 1 through 3, elementary, middle, and high school academic readiness.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having us to present on goals 1, 2, and 3, the combination of our academic readiness. This is the first time we'll be presenting on this, as it was a pilot year. And so we are excited to talk about our next steps as we move forward. I'd like to introduce Dr. Speaks, who will be joining us, Dr. Dossett, as well as Principal Fleur from Atherton, Principal Sheeran from Stouffer, and Dr. Brooks from the academics team, and then Dr. Monica Hunter-Kirby from Du Bois, and then Dr. Joe Ellison. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our vision and mission, which we just went over. Thank you, Dr. Yearwood. So our theory of action really is simple. If students are meeting grade level reading and math achievement benchmarks while successfully completing their defenses of learning, and they're able to integrate academic knowledge with critical thinking, we'll have a much more well-rounded approach to students. We know that one snapshot of one kid at one time is not always the best way to determine their brilliance. And so the more points of data we have and the more opportunities for them to demonstrate their learning in meaningful ways, the better. So a couple ways that we do that through our key strategies are, of course, the high quality instructional resources. So we have level set across the district. In 23-24, we started with literacy, and then just last year we started with math. So ensuring that access and opportunity now are the focus is on equity across the district. And then for milestones, instead of just valuing these moments at 5th, 8th, and 12th and putting all of that accountability on teachers, we now have those across K1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and then 9, 10, 11. And then consistent rubrics and exemplars. Before, every school got to do a little bit of what they wanted. And while that is wonderful, we've been able to tighten up some of those restrictions and ensure that we can promise the same opportunities at any school in JCPS. And then progress monitoring systems for math and literacy. We know that the foundational literacy is not just about the HQIR. So although we adopted new curricular resources, we also shifted the way that we approach literacy in the district. And I think that sometimes that gets overpassed. And I just want to emphasize that we are now, for the first time in JCPS, focusing on a more structured approach that really values foundational skills for our students to ensure that they have what they need as they grow. We've also done that same thing in math so that it's not just sit and get, it's really more of a conceptual understanding of number sense. So again, not just about the curricular resources, but also about the philosophical shifts and the pedagogy that's been really important in JCPS. And then unpacking learning targets, backwards planning with authentic assessment, all of those pieces of the puzzle, the ingredients, like Dr. Yearwood said, are what contribute to us being able to show momentum and show progress. So we really are ahead of the game when it comes to the state accountability model, and that combination of that academic standardized assessment mixed with the journey to success, the holistic approach, understanding the success skills that a child needs, are really what sets JCPS apart and what will set us apart when that accountability model shifts. Because we know that research indicates that regular monitoring of performance is critical. We have shifted to ensure that that foundational literacy approach, the math approach, has regular benchmark checks for student progress along the way. We use performance-based assessments that are aligned to the high-quality instructional resources, so our students are not only getting access to curricular resources, they're also getting to learn and experience and play and have fun and all of the things that we want them to do. And then ongoing feedback loop is essential just to make sure we're focused on growth and learning, not just assessment or not just that one test, but really the growth experience that we want our kids to have. And then policies aimed at increasing post-secondary readiness must prioritize early monitoring and support in the middle grades, which that is where you will see that focus on adolescent literacy. While we've started the foundational shifts, we've also just this year increased the amount of adolescent literacy support so that we can really make sure that we're reaching those gaps with our students. So I'm excited for what's to come, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dossett to talk a little bit more about next steps and what the composite score of a standardized assessment and that journey to success benchmark looks like.
Thank you. So I want to spend some time tonight reorienting ourselves to this local measure of accountability that we're calling the JCPS Academic Readiness Measure. And so, as you might recall, the board challenged us, staff, to say, how is it that we can make sure that we're developing a local metric that means something to us, that's important to us, that represents our values as a district. And so we landed with this academic readiness measure that represents that local value, that values both standardized academic assessments as well as those success skills through the journey to success in the defense of learning, so that we're really getting a more accurate picture of student learning. It's not just one point in time, but it represents a culmination of their skills across these grade levels. And so what you see on the screen is what it means to be ready at the elementary level, ready to move on to middle school, at the middle school level, ready to move on to high school, and then at the high school level, ready to move on to post-secondary readiness and life in general. So you'll see on the left-hand side represents those standardized academic or standardized achievement benchmark. And so we use the MAP assessment to determine readiness there on that standardized assessment to determine academic readiness. It's on a 4-point scale that roughly equates to novice, apprentice, proficient, distinguished. And then we have on the right-hand side those defenses of learning. So as Dr. Greenwell mentioned, this is our first year of this past year represents our pilot year of having a standard district-wide rubric when it comes to defenses of learning. So we set the expectation across the district that this is what we mean when we look at defenses of learning, when students get up and have a chance to say, this is how what I've learned, what my learning journey looks like around these 5 success skills. And it's set on a 4-point scale from needing improvement to ready or approaching readiness and ready. And so in the end, what we have is an academic readiness benchmark where you're either progressing with support, which means you haven't quite reached that readiness level on either the standardized assessment or the defensive learning, or you're ready. And what that means is this is a really high bar. This means that you've met those benchmarks on the standardized achievement test, as well as met the benchmarks on those defensive learning. So that's a high bar. That is different than the state accountability system. So when we think about post-secondary readiness, this is not the same thing. We're looking at apples to apples between elementary, middle, and high. So just wanted to remind ourselves that this is different than the state accountability. This is what we've chosen as a district to say we're looking at a more comprehensive view of student learning. And so what you see here is, again, this represents our pilot year, the first year that we collected data on this metric. And what you'll see across the board is elementary, middle, and high schools are around the same performance level across elementary, middle, and high, because we're measuring it the same way for our elementary, for our middle, and our high school. The other piece of information that I'll pull out here is that we have work to do around our participation rates, that our participation rates across elementary and middle and high range from 70 to 80%. So we know we need to still, during that first year, we were building our systems, and you'll hear from our principals at the table today about those systems that they built and how they're strengthening them for next year, and this year.
Thank you, Dr. Dossett. So I'll kind of go over the school readiness, academic readiness by level, and thinking through what strategies do we have in place to ensure the academic readiness, and then what are those opportunities for growth based on that baseline year that we had last year, and then what next steps do we have based on that. So in thinking through the effective strategies at the elementary level, we know that putting those systems in place, schools had to have teams that met regularly around what is the data saying around literacy, math, and journey to success. They met regularly to progress monitor where students were and to tweak their systems that they had in place in order to improve those outcomes. Also, we have comprehensive professional learning that happens across the board for literacy, math, and journey to success that is ongoing and that happens on a regular basis, be it school-based or district-based. There are multiple opportunities for professional learning that is happening around the HQIRs as well as journey to success. And then also school leaders, again, put those systems in place in order to build capacity, because this work is a shared effort. And so in order to build capacity from the teacher level all the way up through building leadership and district leadership, we had to put a lot of systems in place in order to have the sustainability of implementation for our HQIRs, and then best practices for what vibrant learning looks like in the classroom and how we can ensure that this is happening for all students in an equitable way. So for those opportunities of growth and thinking through where is it that we have room where we need to stretch ourselves a little bit more, we know that small group differentiated instruction is something that we are working towards in every area of every level. It is something that we want to make sure that we are providing targeted instruction for our students that is based on what they need, which is based on the data. And so looking through our data, we know that for skills block and all block at the elementary level, which is where they are focusing on those foundational learning skills for literacy, we know that we need to put more effort into what that small group differentiated instruction looks like to make sure that it's more intentional and to make sure that it's more aligned to what the student needs. And so that's one of the things that we're working towards right now. Also, an opportunity for growth in making sure that we're documenting the efforts that we're putting in place to make sure that we're differentiating based on those demographics, and make sure that what we're doing, what we're putting in place is actually matching their absolute needs. And thinking through how students are experiencing the learning, we're also working to make sure that the student's identity is represented in what they're asked to do every single day. They feel represented in the classroom, and that they know that their learning experience is their own. We want them to have that ownership. And then also embedding those success skills. We don't want the success skills to be something separate from their academic learning. It has to be embedded into what they do every single day. And so making sure that those ongoing opportunities are there is something that we know also is a growth area for us. So for those next steps, the schools division leadership is providing increased progress monitoring feedback. So in thinking through how we go through classrooms, how we calibrate, how we're doing learning walks, what that looks like at the district level and at the school level, in order to make sure that we have accurate progress monitoring data, and we know that the data that we have is a good representation of what students know and are able to do. Also, in thinking through how schools set their measurable goals, we want to make sure that we're working with them side by side to make sure that those goals are attainable and that they're doing so in a differentiated way, so that it's by demographics and it's based on those schools' priorities. And then also, we want to make sure that we will make sure that the schools division leadership is continuing to provide those formative system reviews in the fall to document the progress and to look at all of the systems that are in place at the school level. And then we, of course, will always provide the ongoing professional learning at the district level, and also offer that support at the school level as well, in specific to the HQIRs and also to Journey to Success. I'll pass it to Melissa so that she can talk a little bit more about the systems that she put in place at her elementary school.
Sure. So I'm Melissa Sharon at Stouffer Elementary School, also representing elementary, but certainly acknowledging different context and different places in this journey. But I think it's really an exciting time to be a school leader. It was refreshing to walk into classrooms today and see teachers confidently teaching the curriculum.
So those HQIRs, 2 years ago, we started EL, which is our literacy HQIR. And for the last 2 years, we've really focused on getting to know those materials, internalizing those lessons, knowing the standards. And now we are at a place where the teachers' confidence is higher, they're efficacious. That's really important for teachers to feel. So that we can start that differentiation. And so I'm already seeing that with literacy and with math. We're just in our second year of full mathematics curriculum implementation, that illustrative mathematics at Stouffer. Many schools are the same. There's others that have been implementing for years. But again, already seeing on the 9th day of school, because 10th day counts tomorrow, 9th day of school, kids collaborating, students in literacy reading books, feeling emotionally charged by those books and collaborating and having those discussions. Really exciting place to be as an instructional leader talking about that goal setting. I also want to highlight what Dr. Greenwell said about that foundational literacy piece, which is huge. And I've heard Dr. Yearwood talk about the importance of kindergarten, first grade, second grade. We know what a big deal this is, and we don't take it lightly. Shifting our instructional practices to align with science, we are now equipped with really the knowledge and ability to intervene exactly where we need to for students. And I cannot wait in the years to come to see what that brings to our overall data. But also we have the tools now that if a 4th or 5th grader is struggling with some of those foundational concepts, we can intervene in those all block structures, in the group structures. So we are primed and excited, at least at Stouffer, and I think a lot of my colleagues would say the same thing because we're past the implementation phase, right? We get to now remember the learners in front of us and really do what those students need in the moment based on data. And then finally, just to speak a little bit about journey to success, it's exciting to, talking about being seen in your classroom, right? Even our 5-year-olds, they want to be celebrated for being a communicator, for being an innovator. One assessment score, a benchmark does not measure a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 18-year-old. So to have them highlight their genius in that way has been really rewarding as well, because at times it was a 5th grade project, right? And so we really tried to shift minds around that as well. So overall, an exciting time to be an instructional leader at the elementary school level. I have to give kudos to the teachers. It was a heavy load, and our veteran teachers and newer teachers have really dedicated their time to learning what's best for kids. So looking forward to the year.
So for middle school, lots of the same types of things you'll see on the effective strategies that we noticed with middle school, as far as making sure that schools all had systems in place. They had regular meetings to look at the systems that they had in place, to look at their data, all of those types of things. That goes from K-12, and so that is something that we know is key to moving this work forward. Also, the professional learning that's happened around the HQIRs. We have the same HQIRs in middle school that we have in elementary school, with the addition of another HQIR in science as well. So we have literacy, math, and science HQIRs at the middle school level. And so thinking through what that professional learning looks like, and how, because middle school teachers are content-based and not necessarily generalist how elementary school teachers are, we're able to really target that professional learning and make sure that they have a good understanding of what they're supposed to be doing within that classroom. And then also at the middle school level, being able to triangulate that data with MAP and with their HQIR assessments in order to be able to target and have those differentiated supports at the small group level. Also, middle school offers a great opportunity for cross-curricular learning, especially through the Explore classrooms, the Explore program, pathways that are in our middle schools. That's a great opportunity to bring in the vibrant learning experiences and to see Journey to Success really come to life. And then also thinking through, again, those walkthroughs and learning walks that we're conducting, what the teams are seeing, being able to calibrate on that data as well, all of those being effective strategies. And thinking through those opportunities of growth at the middle school level, we want to focus and do something that seems to be a pretty easy lift, which is focusing on improving the percentage of eighth graders who meet or exceed their expected academic readiness benchmarks. While we know the students are tracking towards improvement and we're seeing great growth, we also want them to meet those benchmarks at the eighth grade level. Also, making sure that at the defensive learning, they have multiple opportunities and multiple ways in which they can express themselves for the defensive learning, but also a lot of preparation along the way so that when they do defend their learning, they are absolutely ready. So that's something that they can easily check off because they're doing something that's about them and their own learning, and again, them showing ownership of their learning. And then again, fostering those vibrant learning experiences in all the content areas, not just in the Explore classes, but in all the content areas in the middle school. And then deepening that interdisciplinary learning experience in the Explore classroom, so bringing in the content into those Explore classrooms as well. And then again, continue that professional learning. So we want to make sure that the principals and academic instructional coaches are trained and well-versed with all of the high leverage instructional practices that go along with the HQIR. None of them are going to be able to know the HQIR back and forth as leaders, but what we do anticipate is that they will be able to understand the pedagogy that goes along with that and best teaching practices that goes along with that and be able to monitor that. And then also being able to hold data literacy conversations and understand what moves you need to make based on MAP data, based on the other HQIR assessment data that you have, being able to be data literate in that and make decisions, instructional decisions for students based on that work. Also supporting the schools with coaching and PLC sessions from the district standpoint, being able to offer whatever support that they need based on their content area from the district level with coaching and PLCs. And then also making sure that, again, those formative systems reviews happen in all of the schools as well to give them feedback and make sure that progress monitoring is occurring across the board. And so I'm going to have Dr. Hunter from Du Bois.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here to address this great work that we're all doing within the district. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the systems that we've put in place to ensure that the information that was bulleted under effective strategies has impact how we do it at Du Bois Academy. So one thing that I have been intentional about is ensuring that everything that we do funnels through our instructional leadership team. And with that, they decided that this year they wanted to go from having 10 different committees to 5. And those 5 committees are Math, Literacy, Journey to Success, MTSS, and our Racial Equity committees. And they meet monthly to focus on where we are with progressing towards making sure that we have a universal system throughout the entire building with our staff and our students to see that we're doing the work that we're supposed to be doing. And so with that, they said, well, we have to supply evidence. We have to present evidence to say, yes, this is what's happening in my classroom. So how do we do that? So the third faculty meeting of every month is our evidence upload day. And we upload evidence for Math, Literacy, Journey to Success, and our Racial Equity Plan. And in that, we found that last year we did something similar. We found that teachers leaned on the domain that they liked. And so we had a whole lot of evidence for this domain and not so much evidence for another domain. And so we put in a system where you can only upload for one domain per semester. That way we have a plethora of different pieces of evidence that flows across the different plans that we have that are mandated by the district, but also to let them see that this is meaningful work and it's necessary. Something else we do is we have the opportunity for students to give us feedback on what is actually happening with these different initiatives that we're offering. And so how are things happening in math? What's going on in literacy? What are those milestones that you are doing in your classroom? And how does this ensure that you are the scholar that you're supposed to be, the leader that you're supposed to be, a student of excellence that you're supposed to be? And so we also include them in that process as well. I'm really proud of our professional learning piece because the district offers a lot of professional learning, but we do some things at our school as well. And one thing that our teachers loved last year that we're going to continue this year is our in-school or in-house field trips. And so if we have a teacher that is great with a particular protocol for EL, IM, or we also have high school, so my perspectives as well, there'll be a fishbowl classroom. And a teacher can go into that space with a support staff member, usually a coach, an AP, or myself. We go in there with a cause and effect analysis. And so if you're struggling with this protocol, what do you see the teacher doing and how do you see the students responding? After that little coaching session, they determine what strategy that they would like to implement and how they want to implement that. We give them a couple of weeks to practice. We go in after the couple of weeks and hope master that protocol or that strategy that they were kind of leery about at first. And so that's one thing that we do with professional learning. Something else, I'm really proud of this, and our teachers are excited about getting feedback from their peers as well. And so we have department chairs, we've empowered them to do walkthroughs, and they offer feedback to their peers on the HQIR and the implementation on the HQIR. I found that that is powerful because it doesn't matter if I've been a principal 1 year or 20 years, I'm not in the classroom. And I could be the most efficient instructional leader, but I'm not in the classroom. And I can know all the things, but I'm not in the classroom. And so when they see me in the space, they look at me as someone that's evaluating, not coaching or giving them feedback. When their friend comes in and says the exact same thing, it's more powerful. Kind of like the reason why we have to have student-to-student discourse. They can learn so much more from their peer as opposed to the facilitator of learning, the teacher that's in front of them. And so they love the fact that they're able to get that, that feedback from their friend or their department chair. Something else that we do is we allow our counselors to push into classrooms once a month, and each content area only gets one time, but they have a full day that they meet with their AP over their content area. We actually call in some of our specialists from academics to come in and support this work, and they unpack data. They create assessments using Otis. They look at their standards-based opportunities for students to assess, to reassess. I have implemented a school-wide expectation and a mandate that everyone does workshop model after they give their assessments. And so they look at those workshop models. They do some quality work protocols before that is even implemented. And all that is done within that full day that they have with their friends to plan and prepare for their students. And then the last thing that we do is we do partner with academics. When I first got to Du Bois Academy, they were like my best friends because they were there all the time putting our stuff in place as it relates to academics. But now we lean on them more as thought partners. So when we have these opportunities for the counselors to push in or department meetings, or if there's a teacher that's struggling, we lean on them to come in and provide that support because we have the systems there, but I also find that sometimes staff members are more open to someone that does not know them. They can say the exact same thing, but because they're at the district or from the district, they're the experts. So we lean on that. I'm not a type of principal that says I'm gonna close my door because I don't want you going back to the central office telling what's happening. Tell, and then come back and help, friend, because we need some help. And so that's what we do with that. With the triangulation of data, we have what we call an assessment week, and we just incorporated that last year. And so the last week of every month, we give an assessment, and we use Otis to curate that assessment unless they're using the assessments connected to HQIR. Now, the HQIR assessments are great. However, some of them don't include the academic vocabulary necessary that the kids are going to see at the end of the year, okay? So they may say just instead of summarize, or I want them to see what they're going to see. And so teachers have the option of giving the HQIR assessment or an Otis specific assessment, because I want to see if they know the standard, not just what they're learning in the space. I need them to know the standard. I need them to be assessed and show me that they know the standard. And so the last week, we do that, an assessment week, and in that week, they give their Tier 1 assessment based on the essential standards that they learned. After that, Otis is great because it unpacks the data for the teachers. And so the questions are tiered. They get 3 multiple choice questions per standard and 1 extended response. And it's scaffolded using Bloom's taxonomy. And Otis does all this for you. So friends out there, if you're watching and you've not used Otis, tap into that because it's super duper easy. But it unpacks the data for them immediately, and you can use that data to put students in groups. Before our teachers even administer an assessment, they already have to have their workshop done. All that stuff is already done. That way, they can take an assessment on Tuesday, look at the data on Wednesday, and by Thursday, they're doing the reteaching, and then a reassessment happens on Friday. And that happens in every classroom except for Explore, but that happens in every classroom, CTE, related arts, PE, health, because I need them to be writing and showing what they know in every content or every classroom that they're in. So that's a part of our assessment week. Our students love that because it's a fun week. They take an assessment. The assessment doesn't take too long, and they get to do workshop or enrich or do something special connected to the standards that they're learning based on those HQIRs. So I love that work. And this is our first year doing workshop as a whole. We piloted in a couple of classrooms last year, but I allowed our teacher leaders to lead that process. So the last 5 days we had with our teachers, 3 of those days we looked at all these things, and they hit the ground running at the start of the school year. We also have something else. We have a Du Bois Achievement Center, which we're just starting this year to leverage our student assistants. So in the midst of Tier 1 instruction, if a student is working in a small group or individually to practice what they've learned, and if they're struggling, they can go to the Achievement Center where student assistants have been trained to provide support, and their job is not to answer any questions, but answer a question with a question to put the onus back on the student. And so they can guide them, but the expectation is for the student that is in the space to do the learning, not the student assistants or the coordinator. So they can be in there from 15 minutes or an entire period, depending on what they're working on. We also have a Lexia lab. So the students that are at the bottom third go into a lab, and they're in there as a related arts class. It's a fluid system, but they're also exposed to novels outside of the novels that are connected to EL. That way they can build that reading stamina that a lot of our students that are lower performing, they need that support. And then we have IXL, we have Saturday School, we have a whole lot of other things. And then last but not least, I don't want to go into everything, but cross-curricular learning opportunities. We're unique because we have middle and high school students in the same space. And so the assistant principals, they approached me and they said, how about, because we also have an issue with retention of our students because they want to go to different high schools sometimes. Not after we get our new building, but that's what we've experienced before. But we have developed projects where the CTE students in high school can partner with the Explorer students in middle school. We have our culinary arts teacher who's partnered with our 8th grade science teacher, and we have an aquaponics space in the building, and we're going to start a tilapia farm and an in-house garden to try to dispel the food desert and give students the opportunity to do those things. And so the work that the academics department has done has been vital, but I will say this, it's very important for the principal to take onus of this work. If somebody tells us what to do and we just do it, we're not owning it. We have to see how this fits at our school. What do I need to ensure, what do I need to do to ensure that not only is the curriculum here, but it's open and they're utilizing it. And then we're putting systems in place to make sure that it's happening and it's happening efficiently, it's happening effectively, it's happening with integrity. So that is the onus of the principal. A lot of things that I have done that's connected to HQIR and Journey to Success, I did it before. I just had to tweak it to fit the needs of what we're doing right now. But at the end of the day, our students have been doing goal setting. At the end of the day, they know their data, so they know where they're going. We've done coaching cycles, we've done all these things, but it's wonderful to see that the expectation is for every student to get grade level instruction, and that's what happens with HQIR. And every student has an opportunity for vibrant learning and showing what they know through exhibitions and milestones and those types of things. That's important because at the end of the day, the data matters, but they're children. And if we can put something in front of them to make them feel like they're successful and they're doing something fun, like with their hands and explore and those types of things, then even if they don't like the classes that they're in, if they get to an Explorer class, then it's great. If they get to go to the aquaponics room and see the tilapia in there, it's great. We've got to do something to make their learning fun and vibrant so they want to be there, they want to learn, they want to grow. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to kick off our last leg, which is on high school academic readiness. One of the things that we talk about in high school is ensuring that we graduate every student diploma plus, meaning they graduate with a diploma plus something else that's going to give them a leg up in the next phase of life. So it could be preparation for post-secondary learning. It could be an industry certification that launches them right into the workforce, or it could be the ability to do both at the same time. So our goal is always that our students finish with us in the last leg of K-12 education ready, not just for graduation day, but they wake up the day after graduation with a clear plan that they can enact in order to live a viable and successful life. Academic readiness is a part of that work, and high schools are unique in that a portion of our accountability actually leans directly into academic readiness. When you look at post-secondary readiness, it's 20% of our accountability, and students can obtain post-secondary readiness through career readiness or academic readiness means. And so what we have worked to do at the high school level is try to ensure our students are better prepared for the college admissions exam. So we adopted a test called CERT. This will actually be our third year using CERT. Elementary and middle utilize MAP. We utilize CERT because it is directly aligned to both ACT and SAT, and it gives our students additional resources that they can utilize to address whatever standards they may need to skill up on to be better prepared for the assessment, not just in the junior year, which is mandated by the state, but also any retests that they may do over the course of their senior year as they prepare to transition. Another thing that we've focused very deeply on is expanding or increasing high rigor course opportunities for our students. Dual credit has become a buzzword in most of our high schools, and it used to be that dual credit was really only provided in core content courses. One of the things that my team has done here at the district level over the last 4 years is to bolster the number of dual credit courses we have in career technical education pathways as well. In fact, we have at least one dual credit offering for every pathway, with the exception of ROTC, because of some challenges with the government structures with ROTC. But what that means is students that may not typically lean into dual credit, or IB or AP or Cambridge in core content can still do so in a career technical education pathway. We are working to shift test administration so that our students get a sense of what the actual testing environment is like for those high rigor tests, but also so that they can build test stamina. For a long time, we put our juniors into the ACT test and said, go take this 4-hour test. And they had never sat for 4 hours, had never been through multiple assessment cycles. Now for our juniors this year, they will have gone through 8 practice rounds of that high rigor testing. And so now they have the stamina to sit and actually engage in that test, but they've also been building the other skills that they need through the resources that are provided. You've heard high quality instructional resources mentioned. High school is unique. This is actually our second year, this year, of implementing HQIRs. So last year, we implemented My Perspectives in English 9, 10, 11, and 12, and illustrative math, also known as IM, in Algebra 1. This year, we'll be adding IM to geometry and Algebra 2. So we're in a unique place where our teachers honestly are still learning where all of the resources and tools are, but implementing with integrity has been our focus. What you'll also find in conversations with our leaders as you're in our schools is some very clear zone level systems designed to really communicate and monitor academic readiness goals. You will hear about formative system reviews, AKA FSRs. You will hear about site visits. You will hear about our regular biweekly cadence meetings with our chief of schools, Chief Moore, wherein we're talking about academic standing for all of our schools, and also looking at their progress, which aligns directly to our goal of ensuring that all of our students graduate prepared for life after high school. The last effective strategy I want to highlight is some collaboration that we have bolstered with the academics team. I have a direct partner now in academics at Shalonda Foster. She's our assistant superintendent for high school academics, and we have worked hard to collaborate to ensure that our leaders have received some professional development around adolescent literacy. I was a high school English teacher, and in all of the coursework that I took, no one taught me how to teach a student how to read. Because the expectation was by the time they got to me in ninth grade, they would be able to read proficiently. And sadly, that's not the case. And so we have to skill our leaders, our academic instructional coaches, and our teachers up on identifying those adolescent literacy skill gaps and really have skills and strategies to employ to be able to close those gaps for our students. We've also worked to help build deeper data literacy for our leaders, ensuring that they can look at the data, they can analyze it quickly, and they can determine what interventions and next steps are needed by student, by group, as a school, to ensure that our students are successful. Of course, as we've implemented these HQIRs over the last year, it really dug into our work with CERT over the last 2 years. There's always opportunities for growth. And so one has been really one that I'll highlight for you is the opportunity to strengthen the alignment of this local measure with what the state measure is. The state measure for academic readiness doesn't just look at the college admissions exam, but it does look at passing scores in dual credit, AP, IB. So students have multiple ways by which to demonstrate from an academic side that they are academic ready. Another thing that we are continuing to use is the data from CERT to focus in on gaps. You heard in Dr. Yearwood's superintendent report that we have some clear gaps in literacy and numeracy. We know that those persist across particular subgroups, and we are leaning into that and working really to identify by name and by need what students need so that we can close those gaps. I have worked to establish some more consistent expectations for how our schools utilize the resources in the CERT platform. Dr. Floor might mention this, I don't know, but I've actually given them a list of must do and can do. Kind of reflecting the language of standards-based approaches to learning. Things that we must do once we have completed our CERT assessment window, and then other things that can be done at the school level to ensure that we are skilling students up as quickly as we can. The other big growth opportunity at the high school level is leaning into Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. One of the things that you'll hear consistently is that pedagogically, high school teachers are trained differently than elementary teachers. Elementary teachers are trained to be everything. Literally, they teach English, math, science, social studies in one room. Kids leave for a little bit of time to engage in related arts, and they come back to them. High school teachers are not trained that way. They are trained as content experts. And there are very few courses provided on pedagogy, which means we have to support our teachers in developing the skills that they need, that when Tier 1 or initial instruction doesn't take root for students, how do we respond? How do we reteach? How do we regroup? And how do we ensure that students are receiving Tier 2 and Tier 3 learning that helps them be able to demonstrate mastery of standards? As far as our next steps, I've already mentioned we'll be implementing our HQIR illustrative math in geometry and algebra 2 this year. So as you are in those classrooms throughout the year, be mindful that those teachers are learning that resource brand new this year. The second one is intentionally increasing the use of CERT data to drive interventions. So back to how do we provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports to our students based upon the data we have in hand, as well as you heard mentioned before, triangulating some of that data to our common formative assessments and our summative assessments that our teachers give. We are working to increase our work with the Office of Multilingual Learners this year. We have several high-density ML schools, literally 35, 38, 40% of the school demographic is multilingual learners. And so we know that we have to support those students better and support those students differently. And so working with Dr. Jill Hanley and her team on how to do that better. Intentional and increased professional learning opportunities for our principals will continue this year, specifically around the data literacy. As we continue to improve our understanding of pulling the data, how do we help our teachers better differentiate their approaches to ensure students have the support that they need? And then the last big thing is our instructional systems monitoring tool is a new tool this year that we're actually going to be using to set goals and to progress monitor. So that tool will be the bedrock of our formative system review conversations with our leaders, and using those to also look back at their comprehensive school improvement plan goals to ensure that all of the work that is being undertaken academically also goes back to those short-term and long-term goals that are required in the state plan, but really to make those goals meaningful across the school and ensure that the small steps that are being taken every day also trail back to those goals. Dr. Stephanie Fleur is here. She's our principal at Atherton High School, and she's going to put some meat on this bone and talk a little bit about the work there.
You all are also about to hear how much in alignment we are in the high school zone, as I showed Dr. Greenwell some of my notes that Dr. Ellison was over there rattling off. But really, the way I'm going to structure this is I'm going to hit on some of the what's working from Atherton High School. I'm going to talk about a little bit, expand on the opportunities for growth as well as those next steps. Starting with the academic readiness measures, one of the things that I communicate to our families and I communicate to our students is that while college entrance exams such as the ACT and the SAT are just one data point in time, they do open a lot of doors. In addition to opening doors to colleges, to scholarships, they also represent the basic literacy and numeracy skills that kids need to also be successful in their careers. When you think about what does a benchmark score represent, it actually represents that 75% of students who got that score would average a C in a basic college class, right? And so we talk to our students about how valuable these exams are, regardless if they're planning to go to college or they're planning to directly enter their career. And so we've gotten a lot of mileage out of this CERT exam. Atherton High School was one of the first schools to actually pilot CERT. We've been doing it for a long time. And if you think about it, 30 years ago, when you sat to take one of those tests, if you were lucky, you went to the public library, you checked out one of those big SAT or ACT books, and you took a practice test, and then you took it one time and you hoped for the best. As Dr. Ellison said, now an incoming ninth grader has 8 opportunities, not just to take a full-length test and build that stamina, but also to use this platform that gives them immediate tutoring, immediate feedback that is personalized and customized to them. And so we at Atherton have created something called the CERT Challenge. And so once our students get their scores, they immediately complete a goal-setting document, and they set a goal because we're always going to focus on growth, whether you got a 33 or whether you got a 12. We're focused on growing for the next one. And then we do what's called the CERT Challenge. And our students, we kind of claim a week for a content area, and we encourage our students to complete the various tasks on CERT, such as reviewing missed questions, using the study hall and exam features, and continuing to practice. And the more minutes kids practice, there's different level of rewards and things like that. But it's been highly successful. And at the end of the day, kids are practicing for this test that really is going to determine what doors are eventually opened for them. So we've gotten a ton of leverage out of that. We've also gotten a lot of leverage out of our access to high rigor courses, continuing to open up those opportunities, as Dr. Ellison said. Our biggest expansion in dual credit, because we are an international baccalaureate school, our biggest expansion in dual credit has been within our CTE courses. And so now, regardless if you're in the media arts, engineering, or health science pathway, you have opportunities to earn articulated dual credit through those programs. And so, when you think about what are we really preparing kids for? We're preparing them, as he said, for Diploma Plus, and we're preparing them to build a life. That life is going to be beyond just this one test score. And then that kind of leads me into how that then pairs with Journey to Success. As we've talked about, high school is a little bit of a different animal. While students are taking those core content classes, they're also taking electives in high interest areas. And there's opportunities for kids to continue to gain traction in those electives, but those are classes that they're interested in. Those are classes that they want to be in. And what Journey to Success does is it allows students to really capture those learning moments in classes. They get to share performance based assessments. They get to share real world project based learning And they get to reflect on that and discuss that. And if you think about what is success in the work world, you don't just take a test one time. Yes, it's important to be able to pass your certification exams. However, then what is the rest of your career? At some point, it is working on a project, it's presenting a project, it's collaborating with others, it's getting and receiving and feedback. And that's what Journey to Success allows those kids to do. And so when you think about pairing those academic measures, which are very valuable, also with the opportunity for kids to discuss their learning in those favorite classes. And so one system that we've done, I was a little surprised at the participation rate because I would gather ours is almost 100%. One of the things that we've done in terms of the milestones is we require it in every class. All 7 classes that kids take are very important. And teachers in all 7 of those classes are delivering engaging instruction. Kids are engaged in excellent real-world projects and learning experiences, and so we leverage that. So it's not just something that you do in English class. It's not something that you do in math. If you're in aviation, you are defending a milestone project, and you're getting up and you're talking about that, and you're doing that 7 times throughout the year, starting freshman year. Then you're doing it 7 more times sophomore year. Then you're doing it junior year. So by the time you're a senior, you're just picking your favorite ones or your best ones, and that's what you're presenting on. But it's something that you've done, and it's that ability to reflect. You know, kids really are able to stand there as 18-year-olds and say, here's where I was and here's where I am now. And now I know, you know, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to pair this academic experience with this life goal that I've had for myself. And so we require it in every class. By the time students are seniors, they're paired with their mentor teacher, who's typically their senior English teacher. We offer Journey to Success seminars, and actually we work that in our schedule when we're giving those full-scale CERT exams. Seniors are in seminar where they are getting Journey to Success help, they're getting small group assistance, they're getting support, they're getting feedback to practice for their final presentation. And so for us, it's a graduation requirement. It's just an expectation. Kids know if I'm, you know, when I graduate, this is one of the check marks along the way. And so it's just become part of the way that we do things within our systems. Nobody graduates without doing their defense. We had a kid that finished their credits late in June, and they were living 2 hours away, and they still drove back and they presented their defense because they knew that was part of what we do. And so when we talk about our opportunities for growth in the professional learning that's offered, I participated in the science of literacy. My academic instructional coach participated in that training. And even though I'm a certified English teacher, Dr. Ellison was too, but when we went through school, it was a very different approach to learning. It was just give them more things to read and eventually they'll pick up on it, right? But we now know through the science of literacy that even at the high school level, there are high leverage strategies that any teacher can use. My engineering teachers, health science, any of those teachers can use high leverage strategies such as modeling, fluency, requiring multiple reads and reading for a purpose. You know, when you read an engineering or aviation manual, you're not just reading it one time and answering multiple choice. You're actually probably reading it over and over again as you're working through that project. And so those are skills that our teachers are modeling. And so for us, we are really finding leverage on focusing on informational literacy. We know that they're getting their literary content in their English classes, but we're focusing on opportunities for informational literacy in all of the classes and opportunities to model those strategies. And then when you look at the data, you see that it does translate. You see that upward trajectory. And so as far as the HQIRs, as Dr. Ellison said, we are in our second year. So we are piloting now geometry and algebra 2. We're implementing that. I actually was sitting in the math department PLC today, where they were sharing things. And one of the things that it has allowed us to do, high school teachers they are content experts. You know, a physics teacher is a physics expert. An algebra 2 teacher, you know, a calculus teacher, those are expert levels but one of the things that this has allowed us to do is My entire admin team went through these HQIR trainings. My academic instructional coach went through these trainings. And so it was kind of a level set for the people who are going to be coaching the teachers. And so kind of that mystique of this content was broken down. And we all know what is expected. We all know the curriculum. We all know the content. And it's really opened up opportunities for collaboration. Collaboration among teachers within PLCs. They're meeting and they're talking and they're discussing and looking at student work and talking about standards differently than they ever have before. It's also allowed for collaboration between teachers and administrators, and also administrative support staff, such as the academic instructional coach. And so it's just opened up new opportunities for collaboration that we are continuing to build on and grow from.
A lot of passion, a lot of expertise, and we have laid the ingredients, I think, for a lot of wonderful momentum to come. So we'll take questions.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Thank you for your hard work and your diligence and your inspiring stories of the implementation of strategies in your buildings. We appreciate the work that you do for young people in JCPS. Mr. Bass?
Thank you all for the information. I just really am interested about the Diploma Plus. Can it start in middle school so that way they have a head start? And really my main question is, do we have any success stories, which I'm pretty sure we do, but can we start highlighting those on our websites, Facebook and everything? Because the students I'm dealing with, it seems to be one of those, I'm a senior now. And so when I hear this, I'm thinking, if they knew about it, they wouldn't be shocked that they're a senior when they're seniors. And then my last question is, I know you was talking about coaching, but is each high school at capacity to have an assistant to the high school students? If they are not, are we open to have qualified volunteers or organizations to help get into the schools? Because let's be honest, we're at capacity as far as with monies and stuff, but we have a community, we have people who want to help. So with this type of thing, I feel like it may be an opportunity to open that door.
I'll take the first two. I'll kick it to you, and then Doc, I'll let you take the third one. So your second question was about highlights, and I will say our communications department, they did not pay me to say this, but our communications department does a great job, especially in conjunction with our Academies Alliance, our Academies of Louisville Alliance, which is an outside organization that helps to support our work in our 15 comprehensive schools, which are our Academy of Louisville schools. Between the two of them, there's a lot of positive press out there, some video vignettes, stories about kiddos for whom this work, these vibrant learning experiences that occur within their academies and in their pathways have really made a difference for them. Diploma Plus, yes, can definitely start in middle school. In fact, it does. You heard the word explore mentioned today, and explore is definitely a direct on-ramp into our career technical education work and our Academies of Louisville work. It's a good place for me to highlight that there's a difference between Career Tech Ed, CTE, and Academies of Louisville, because you can have career technical education without the Academies of Louisville, but you can't have the Academies of Louisville without career tech education. So we have career technical education in all of our high schools, all of our buildings that serve high school students. So that even includes like Du Bois and Grace James that are actually situated in the middle school zone. They still have career tech ed pathways. So all of our high school students have opportunities to engage in those pathways based upon their interests and their passion for life after high school. And we have multiple opportunities for them to connect with business partners. And all of that starts in those Explore classrooms and the work that starts in 6th grade. So we are working hard with the middle school zone to really build a 6-12 career tech ed program or structure in our district. It starts definitely with Explore, leans into not just the Academies of Louisville, but also our career tech ed work as well. Dr. Floor?
I'll give you a highlight that's probably going to be a spoiler alert from communications, but this just happened this past week. We had a 2025 graduate, who was the first student from our aircraft maintenance technician program to receive his A&P license. And then with the help of his teacher, he received an interview with Republic Airways. As an 18-year-old, over 40 people applied for 3 positions, and this kiddo was hired, and he starts in September. And he leveraged his dual credit opportunities. So he leveraged the AMT pathway and the dual credit partnership that we have with JCTC, and also our partnership with Republic Airways through the Academies of Louisville, and snagged a job that people twice his age were trying to get. So yes.
Well, thank you to the communications team. But I actually would like to start having them come up here. For some reason, I don't know why everyone else isn't seeing these great things. So if you can, maybe next meeting have him in so we can celebrate him and anybody else in person. But yeah, he can hire me too if he's making enough money. But I do appreciate that.
To answer your last question, we always welcome collaboration with our community partners, and I will be presenting to Metro United Way on Friday at their community partner event for over 200 folks to really understand the literacy shifts that we've made, that it's not just about curriculum, it's about mindset. And if they want to support JCPS, I also need them to understand what those shifts are too, so that we're speaking the same language.
No more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Ms. Duncan?
How did you all get so good? I'm telling you, I really am impressed with this presentation, and you answered so many of my questions that I wanted you to answer, and I appreciate that. One of the things that struck me was the participation percentage, and I guess they move on to the next level without having to do this or having to take part in this. But what is our goal here? Are we trying to get 100%? And what are we doing to increase that?
So the goal is 100%. This was a pilot year. There's a level of increased accountability as we go into this year with our new instructional systems monitoring tool. And I can let Dr. Ellison kind of speak to the work that happens in the formative systems review. But for the first time this year, after looking at data from last year, we now have intentional checkpoints along the way to ensure that we are monitoring implementation on a much tighter level. It is never our intent for a student to go through it without having to do that. There are some circumstances that occur, and there's some things that happen at the school level, but overall, implementation is the next step.
Yeah, so those formative system review meetings, they vary a little bit in structure by zone, but ultimately the goal is to have a formative conversation with the principal and whomever else on their team that they have present about their strategies, their systems, their structures that lead to the data. The RC department gives us vital signs data on a regular interval. It's academic and it's cultural data. So we're able to talk about behavior, we're able to talk about attendance, but we're also able to talk about benchmark attainment. We look at it in a disaggregated way. And so then we're able to have informed conversations with leaders about systems and structures and strategies that are being employed at the school level that's leading to the data we want or not leading to the data we want, and then to provide specific coaching. One of the challenges we've had since COVID has been attendance. I don't think anybody can say we haven't. And so when you look at the high school data, for example, in our A1 schools, we had a 40% chronic absenteeism rate last year. It was down from the year before, but it's not where we want it. And one of the things I remind folks when we talk about chronic absenteeism is that when our students are in school, we're working them. They are engaged, they are learning, they are working in these vibrant learning experiences and vibrant learning environments, and they are producing in their defenses of learning when you go back and look at the rubrics. I see Erica Brooks nod, and so I must be on with that. But we have to have them there. And that's been one of the biggest challenges that we have faced in our high school students, is just literally getting them back into the building. Once we get them, we have effective systems and structures to address challenges they may face outside of school that may be barriers to them getting to school, but we have to have an initial touch point as well. So we continue to work with Culture and Climate Department, our ADPPs, our attendance committees at schools are working feverishly to make contact with students and get as many of them back in as we can. So, because when they're there, we're working them and we're able to get them across the line.
But I guess at this point, this is not an absolute requirement that they complete their defensive learning in order to graduate. Apparently, it's not, right?
It is in the SPP and G, yes.
Well, I hope we can, I hope that attendance will help support our improving that participation, because it's just such a huge plus for those kids to be able to talk about what they've learned and how they've learned in the meeting of the career programs that they're in. So I'm looking forward to that. When we disaggregate data by groups, we also know that within the groups, there are differences. So sometimes I worry about us looking at just groups and not focusing on the gaps that are within groups. And I know some of our schools have gaps within groups that need to be addressed. So how do we make sure we don't overlook those kids within the group that are not achieving at the same levels?
So I can say specifically to address your question, I think it comes down to progress monitoring. It's the systems that we have in place at an individual level. It's not really about groups, it's about individual kids too, to make sure that they're getting what they need. So along the way in literacy, there are weekly benchmarks. Along the way in math, there are weekly benchmarks there as well. At the K1-2 level, it's extremely tight. At the fourth and fifth grade level, we also have those experiences as well. At the adolescent literacy level, we've just implemented for the first time the diagnostic that we have at literacy. We are implementing a diagnostic in math coming up. So I think to answer your question, every teacher has to know every single kid in that classroom and where they are and how they're growing.
And it sounds like we are being trained, our teachers are being trained to be better at differentiating. I know it's always a challenge, but I know, I hear the emphasis on that. And just one other question. When we talk about these things being aligned, do we feel confident that what we're getting from CERT is aligning with SAT results? I mean, when we see CERT results, do they look like our SAT results in reading or math or whatever?
Actually, yes, they're highly predictive. I'll let Dina jump in too. I think both of our doctorates are in education evaluation, right? And so, no, I actually, same thing. So what I always tell our parents is, I'm not going to recommend something that I wouldn't use as a parent as well. And so to that end, I mean, even before we started, I don't just take their published reports. I looked at our data, and yes, it is highly predictive, all the way down to how much time a kid spends after the fact on the study sessions. You can almost predict what their growth will be. And I'll let you jump in there, Dina, too.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you all. I can't thank you enough for this look at the strategies. You just bring all the strategies to life that we're using to address these goals, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Mr. Everett?
Just a couple quick ones. One, I agree with Ms. Duncan. This is incredible. It's awesome, and I'm so excited to see what the kids are going to get out of this. A couple things. Obviously, these schools are doing incredible at adopting this. Tara, more a question for you. Do we feel like across the board, every school is able to implement this? Do we see certain schools that can't and why they can't? And is there anything we can do to help them?
So we collaborate with the schools division with Chief Moore on a regular basis. At their level, they're looking at implementation. However, we're in schools too, so we have collaborative conversations. There are schools that need additional support. Perhaps it was a leadership transition, perhaps it was a teacher transition. Our high-density schools are also schools that we address specifically by additional counselors, by sending our OML team. So there are strategies in place to provide this support. So again, we've got the pieces of the puzzle. I think sometimes it's a matter of identifying who needs what and what they need. This data has informed the way that we're going to approach this year for sure.
Cool. And then in regards to the curriculum, I definitely hear you that, English is still new, math is still new. I feel like as a board, we have to really let you guys see it through. Do you have an estimate though, based on selecting these and where they've been working other places, like how long until we know it's working or it's not working?
So, the best way I can look at it is like this. We've level set across the board. So I think at the secondary level, at middle and high school, you're going to see some quicker gains because you're having equity and access and opportunity. At the elementary level, because it's been such an enormous mindset shift in not only how we teach, but the way that we teach it, I think it takes a little bit more time. So those kindergartners are just now second graders this year, if we're talking about fully exposed to what we have to offer in JCPS.
Okay. And then just a couple more things. I loved hearing that we are addressing the kids in high school, especially that, they come in and they maybe aren't at grade level, right? So I know you said there are, what are some specific things we're doing, like if a kid can't read at grade level to get them back up to speed?
Yeah, so, there are a menu of options. So one of the things that we do to try to identify specific skill areas that students need to build is a second screener. It's a diagnostic called CAPTI.
Okay.
And so for any of our students in the freshman year this year, but schools have the ability to use it with any and all of their students that are 20th percentile or below in their CERT assessment, they automatically roll into a CAPTI assessment, which identifies basic literacy areas where they need additional support.
Yep.
And then it's on the school to have a plan that they can enact in order to support those students in those specific areas. That happens in different ways.
Okay.
Some schools have elected, to hire an interventionist that provides those supports. A lot of times their teachers are aware of them, so it's folded into the work that's provided or support that's provided in the classroom with Tier 1 instruction and also Tier 2 instruction. There are some online platforms that can be utilized as well. Lexia was mentioned, I think, by Dr. Hunter Kirby. So there are various ways that can be tackled, but it starts with us having good information. For a long time, the only information we looked at was KSA data, and it's such a lag, and it really doesn't give us a clear indication of the root of the challenges that students have, that we have now with academics folded in that additional diagnostic, which gives us a better look into where students need additional support and the schools are able to act on it.
Awesome. That's great. Last thing is, I know you guys have heard me, I'm big on staffing. I want to get every school staffed as far as we can. I think Cynthia's team is doing an awesome job to do that. You talk a lot about small groups and how this is, do we feel like we have the staff currently to do that, or is that still a hindrance because we aren't fully staffed?
And I might let you answer this a little bit. So at the elementary level, we have principals being very creative with their schedules to use their elective teachers to come in and also support small groups. I think across the board at the kindergarten level, we do, but when we're seeing those gaps at the adolescent level, it's a little bit harder. So those are things where we're working on how can I, as a teacher of 31 students, actually break my class into groups where I'm managing at the same time. So it is a little bit of a learning curve, but we do think it's valuable.
Yeah, and I was a middle school teacher. I never taught elementary. And so I wish I knew then what I know now, because it is very, it is possible. And especially to your point about knowing what the kid needs. And I feel for the first time in a long time, we have exactly what we need to intervene. Like our assessment landscape is tight. Kindergarten teacher, honestly, elementary teachers are just accustomed to small group in a way that older teachers are not. In a kindergarten classroom, you've got an instructional assistant who can also do a small group or at least help monitor. We do a lot of center work, rigorous reading, self-choice books, technology, maybe it's Lexia, rooted in a specific skill, but ultimately that time with the teacher is everything. And then all block in our upper grades, and we do get creative. And so we have interventionists push in during that time. We have interventionists pull out, and really at this time in the year, we're waiting for that MAP benchmark. We're waiting then for that secondary screener. I mean, we're still pushing in, but to do like intensive interventions, we have to wait for a couple more data points to really then target it and move, because it should be really fluid. But I do think that's just a practice at the elementary level that we are accustomed to in a way that maybe middle school's not set up for.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. Ms. Lister?
This was great. Thank you for all this information, and it's very exciting. And so many of my questions have already been asked. I'm just curious about the achievement gap is just really glaring and really catches my eye. And I was just curious how is that spread amongst the different schools? Like at Atherton, for instance, where it sounds like you guys are doing stellar things, how's the gap there? Like, how is it in the different schools?
So, I mean, we have achievement gaps like anyone. The way that we are working to tackle it from a school culture perspective is we started with post-secondary readiness. We started with the end in mind. If you look at our post-secondary readiness gap, it is down to single digits. It's basically gone. Whereas 4 or 5 years ago, there was a 50-something% gap. So we've started with those connections. What's meaningful for kids, right? Well, when I leave school, I go to every senior classroom. Please tell me, raise your hand, who wants to do something successful after high school? And you get about 100% participation, right? Mm-hmm. And so we start with the end in mind, and then we've started there. And so we have a culture where being post-secondary ready is what we do and is important, and we have effectively closed that gap. Now we have to start to work backwards, and we have to start to filter it down to the younger students in the pathways and things like that, right? So we have to, what is your 4-year plan? What are your goals? And we actually do link that back to CERT. And so, like I said, when they do every administration, we have a goal-setting document, and it's not just what score do I want. It's linked, what do I think I want to do? Let me do a little bit of research. Oh, I want to go to this college. What entrance score do I need? What do I need for that major? I want to go into this field. What kind of score? What skills do I need? And so we link it to those interests, and that is how we are continuing to work, along with continuing to build those foundational skills throughout the content classes.
And everybody has equal access and encouragement to be asked that question. What do you want to do? And to be helped to find a path.
Yeah, it's 100% of our kids who complete CERT. And I would say our participation rate in CERT hovers around 98%. You only miss the handful of just chronic absent or, circumstance kids on home hospital, things like that. But yes, every single kid who completes it then completes with their teacher a goal-setting document. I mean, teachers can lead it their way, or my instructional coach provides them with a lesson on goal setting with high school students and how to set those goals.
So it seems like if we see schools where the gaps are smaller, then we can look at what are they doing and try to do that. I mean, there are other things at play, of course, but it seems like something to focus on. So thank you. I don't have any other questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Lister. Ms. Strange?
This is most informative. Thank you very much. Just 2 questions, because like everybody else, really good questions have been answered. I know you said in the readiness measures and assessments that you all have sort of created your own rather than just using standardized, which I really appreciate. But how closely does it mirror or include some of the things that are standardized so that we aren't so far to the left or to the right that our kids are missing out?
So I can speak to this, and then I can turn it over to Dr. Brooks. next because she's done some amazing work. I think what's important to notice is that the success skills being embedded into the work that they're doing in class, whether it is tied to an HQIR or whether it is tied to another course that they're doing, there are natural occurrences along the way tied to standards, connected to a rubric where that teacher is able to evaluate them that also lead them to demonstrating these success skills. So I just wanted to point out that one of the reasons we've chosen the paths that we're on with literacy and math is also because those performance-based assessments are naturally occurring where we can relate to both. Oh, yes.
Also, in creating our own assessments, we are working on evidence of learning checks. And so some of those standardized assessments are more general. These are the things that all third graders should know. Whereas within evidence of learning check, it is very specific to this is what they've been taught over this period of time. Now, how have they done with this content material? So we have a better understanding of their learning in this moment. And so those are very aligned to the way in which things happen as far as like KSA is concerned, the certain type of language, the certain type of format of the test, and all of those things are very aligned, but the content is much more streamlined to what they've been doing in that moment. And so we get a better picture of what the student knows and is able to do within that assessment.
Much more in real
It's
time.
more relevant and in real time.
Real time,
Right.
yeah.
But that we are piloting that at the moment,
Okay.
yes.
And just to speak about what that looks like across the board. So our team has really been intentional about how we're looking at our defensive learning rubrics. And we're breaking that data all the way down and disaggregating that and looking at those intentional rubric indicators and seeing where that aligns with our HQIRs. So we're not only just looking at it and scoring, but we're going in coaching and teaching, not just teachers, but CTE, Explore Pathways, district level leaders, building level leaders across the board for what journey to success and success skills look like across the board in all classrooms. And really the shift comes into how we are approaching success skills within daily instruction. And those do show up, as Dr. Greenwell and Dr. Speaks have already talked about it. It already shows up in our performance task within our HQIRs. So looking at that level of where we are across the rubrics, we can then say, hey, here is this opportunity within our defensive learning rubrics where it's showing up across our HQIRs within all academic areas K through 12, because our team works K through 12.
Okay.
And then I'll just add, and then we've got RC, our team, to be able to do the predictive analytics, reliability and validity test audit, just to make sure that everything is aligned once we have that full set of data.
Thank you. My next question is, and it goes back to what Taylor alluded to, with the teacher shortage, are permanent subs getting the HQIR training and everything to be as effective as a regular teacher in the classroom?
Yes, in fact, we staggered a lot of the trainings at different points during the year for different hires, for new hires. We did them in January all throughout so that no matter when, if you were a sub, a permanent sub, that we were able to provide that for you.
Can I also add to that, along with that, we're not just training our substitute teachers, but we're also training our instructional leaders or instructional assistants in the classroom by way of vibrant learning experiences, because they not only just support that learning, but they're also a part of that learning and a part of that experience for our students as well. So they also receive the Journey to Success support trainings within HQIRs and vibrant learning experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Strange. Mr. Craig?
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Greenwell. The development of the academic readiness metric was a result of the charge from this board to academics to capture a way to measure things that we don't see in the standardized assessments, correct?
Yes, it was a compromise of standardized assessments and success skills.
And you used the line again tonight, and I think several of you did, one that I agree with wholeheartedly and have preached for the 7 years that I've been here, although it's tough for me to measure it, that the standardized assessment is a picture of 1 day of learning, correct? And it's not an accurate measure of the student's complete success, right?
Yes.
I am struck, though, by the chart that we see here of where we stand today and how similar it is to the state assessment scores at the end of last year that Dr. Yearwood emphasized during his superintendent's report. And I wonder if you might comment on whether or not we have achieved our goal that the board set out in capturing student progress that we don't see reflected in state assessments.
So I think that's a great question, and you're right, the data looks very similar because currently the way this metric is set up, to be considered ready, we set that high bar. You need to be ready. You're ready if you're meeting the benchmark on the standardized assessment as well as meeting the benchmark on the defensive learning. So we know that you're progressing with support. We know that we need to provide support if you are not meeting your benchmarks on the standardized assessment or you're not meeting your benchmark on the defensive learning. When we look at the data disaggregated, we see on our defensive learning much higher success rates, much higher readiness rates because students have multiple opportunities to show their growth in these areas. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that we understood currently as it's designed, this is a higher bar than the state accountability system in some ways because we're saying in order to be ready, you have to meet those benchmarks on the standardized assessment as well as those defensive learning benchmarks.
Has the defensive learning metric on its own been presented to the board recently? I don't think it, have I missed it?
It was earlier in the spring, but again, it was the pilot data. So that was part of earlier goals.
Okay. So we would see in that perhaps a better indicator of what the board was articulating as we developed the goals and guardrails.
If we look at it just by defensive learning data, yes.
Correct. You will see a lot more student success in that, given that they had multiple mediums to demonstrate their learning, multiple opportunities and feedback cycles.
Thank you. I want to touch on two quick more topics. The metric that we're using with respect to the ACT, it looks like we're measuring success from 14 to 19. I've not spent a lot of time considering the ACT, and I guess now we have to consider the SAT as well. As part of my duties here on the Board of Ed for the last 7 years, but I'm curious whether that 19 number is a high enough bar, a high enough goal for us to be achieving towards, striving towards.
Yeah, so
I don't mean to be critical, but it does seem underwhelming as a goal.
Right,
Say
so
it that bluntly.
we use the State Council for Post-Secondary Education benchmarks for this benchmark to align it with that. The college admission test, whether it's ACT or SAT, there's benchmarks that the State Post-Secondary Council sets, and that's what we've used in this case.
Okay. Are you going to have to finagle this again with respect to the SAT numbers now?
Yes.
How much so, do you think? How much of an effort will that be on?
So they already have the benchmarks set for SAT and for ACT, so we'll switch out the ACT numbers with the SAT numbers if that's the ultimate vendor that's chosen.
Thank you. A few more questions, and these are meant as softballs, not gotchas, these that are coming. Dr. Speaks, when you were reflecting on the elementary opportunities for growth, you commented on the third bullet point here, student learning experiences, ensuring that they encompass diversity of voice, et cetera. Tell me why I see that reflected here at the elementary level and not any others. But then why don't you elaborate for members of the Board of Education why that is such an important tool for us in overcoming the achievement gaps?
Absolutely. Being able to see yourself in the curriculum, being able to see yourself and feel validated at school is a major part of sense of belonging. And so coming to school and being able to feel positive and happy and understand that you are part of this environment is a foundational skill that has to be met before a student can learn anything. And so, of course, we always talk about we have to bloom before we Maslow. And so we want to make sure that those student needs are being met. And so with identity, making sure that there's joy in the classroom and all of those types of things, those 5 pursuits that we talk about, we always want to make sure that at the elementary level, the students have that opportunity and that foundation in order to build their self-confidence and in order to make sure that they understand that this learning environment is one that is for them and it is their learning environment and that they have to own their learning. And so at the elementary level, we wanted to make sure that this is a foundational skill that all students have, and that all educators understand the importance of making sure that identity and joy and all of these things, criticality, are all a part of a student's learning experience at the elementary level. In middle school and in high school, they have more opportunities to explore who they are, explore pathways, and with Academies of Louisville, through CTE and all of these things, there are more experiences that are tailored to the student. At the elementary level, it is in a more general way, and so we want to make sure that their identity that they're developing as they're in elementary school is valued and that they feel that sense of value in school every single day. If not, the achievement gap grows. And so part of that, being able to have a sense of belonging and feel like they can achieve, is a major part of being able to achieve every single day.
And I agree, and I've supported it, especially the budgeting tools that we've used in order to implement that, but the general policies that the Board of Education has implemented and that you guys are following as well. Thought I might use that opportunity in light of recent events to articulate again, if we have a majority-minority district,
Absolutely.
and if we are charged with overcoming these gaps, that we will continue to use those tools, defend those tools. We will not whitewash them. We will not change the way that we are using them in any way, shape, or form in response to political pressure, because we know that is what works and that is what we are supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so surprised you hadn't poured over ACT data over the last 7.5 years you've been on the Board of Education. Thank you all so much for the presentation. I have a few questions. Considering the percentage of students who are considered ready on the JCBE's academic readiness measures, juxtaposed with our graduation rate, I don't understand the discrepancy between the two.
So I'll just speak to the academic readiness benchmark, and then if Dr. Ellison wants to talk about the SPP&G and the graduation requirements.
We've taken up a lot of time, so I don't want to, take up a lot. I just want clarity, between what accounts for the, 36.7% of students who are considered ready in high school and the 86% of students that we are graduating. How can that be?
Right. And so, basically what it boils down to is, again, that high bar around the standardized assessment and the ACT benchmarks here. That's the college admissions test. They're meeting that benchmark. But when it comes to graduation rate, there's multiple opportunities across the 4 years for students to show that they have met those graduation requirements that are different than just hitting that ACT or that college admissions test benchmark.
So which one should we be paying attention to? Which one really tells us? So are we saying that just because someone graduates, does that mean that they're graduating having jumped through enough hoops, but perhaps not academically ready to survive the real world as competent adults?
So that's a great question. I don't know if our high school team wants to tackle that.
Thanks, Dr. Dossett.
Welcome, Dr. Ellison.
It's not a softball at all. What I would say is, in any graduating class, you are going to have variance. Graduation is determined by having X number of required credits, right, and passing those courses. Some students are going to pass with a lower GPA than others. So there's always going to be variance. And so I think it's difficult, to Dr. Dossett's point, to look at the two the same when reaching graduation is a pinnacle of 4 years of work. And literally, that half of this academic readiness measure is a one snapshot in time. Our schools provide a great deal of support to students to ensure they graduate and graduate on time. We have students who fail courses. It happens. And so they have to recover courses. We have students, our principals will tell you, that are literally working up until the minute the graduation starts to finish a course and pass a course to be eligible to walk. So there's variance. And if you're trying to equate graduation, which is a 4-year journey of peaks and valleys, or sometimes all peaks, or sometimes all valleys for some kids, depending on the kid, with one shot, one snapshot, standardized test, then I don't think you're being fair about the measure. Because graduation measures more than how I did in a 4-hour test. Take me, for example. I have 3 degrees, but I graduated high school with a 2.7 GPA and an okay ACT score, and I got into school. And I have 3 degrees, and I'm leading a zone of 26,000 kids, and working hard every day to make sure each of them has better opportunities than what I had. So I don't think, to wind it down, I don't think that one test in a 4-hour setting is indicative of a 4-year journey. So I think it's very hard to say that the two are one and the same or strongly correlated.
So then, help me understand why we're talking about readiness. Like what is the usefulness of this conversation?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to what Dr. Floor said, that academic readiness is an indication of opportunities that may or may not be open for our students. When you look at a student's literacy level, you can typically draw a direct line, a direct correlation between their literacy level and the opportunities that are going to be open for them. The ACT, the SAT are gatekeeper exams. Now, there's this misperception out there that, schools are test optional and you don't need it to get in. Oh, you may not need it to get in, but you need it to get money. And most of our students, a high free and reduced lunch district, don't have the money to pay for school, right? So even if they have a score to get in, chances are they need a score in order to pay. So that it's about opportunity, it's about access. When you look at the level of literacy that's needed to successfully navigate a workplace, depending on what industry sector and field that a student enters, some of our students who are in advanced manufacturing or aviation maintenance, HVAC, plumbing, like they're reading technical manuals. So they have to have a strong level of literacy to be able to navigate those manuals, to be able to do their work. So it's not just about the hands-on skill that they have, but it's also about the literacy level. And all of that folds back into this academic readiness measure. And so that measure is important for us, to be able to coach kids to do better and to skill up, to open more doors and opportunities for them, but also to inform the practice and the work that occurs in the schools to ensure that those students have the opportunities and the mechanisms to skill up, to open the doors and the opportunities for them.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you for being honest.
Can I add to that too? Just that kudos to the academic department, because this is a higher bar than what the state sets. So for post-secondary readiness in the state, it's any of the subject areas on the ACT. If you just want to talk pure academic readiness and take out industry cert and all the other things that lead to opportunities, it is either or. It's if you benchmarked in math or reading or English. And here, we're saying you're going to do both. And my school leads the state in post-secondary readiness, and I ran the numbers just for fun off of last year's junior class, and only 61% of my kids would have met on that one test both at the same time. And so that's a way higher bar than what the state sets. Like I'm over 100% with state. That's So it's very ambitious, and they're basically saying like, we're setting this high bar and then we're going to get there. But understand it's a higher bar than even what the state of Kentucky would do.
Well, we were the ones who said it at the table, so it is a higher bar, and we did that intentionally because we believe that all students can excel, and your comments underscore why my son goes to your school, but that's almost 30 points above the district average, how Atherton is scoring. Their percentage of students who are scoring ready. And that gets to my concern as I think about all students. I really appreciate what Dr. Ellison says, but I'm interested in all students having as many opportunities as possible, and I'm concerned about students not having those opportunities because of they're not being proficient in math and reading. And so I'm curious, we've been talking, so backpack of success skills turned into journey to success skills. Now we have a rubric. We continue to use the language of piloting. Is there any evidence that backpack to success or journey to success is effective in improving academic outcomes for students of JCPS? And have we had backpack of success and journey to success evaluated by a national teaching and learning entity to give us feedback as to our strategies of implementation of those programs?
So I'll speak a little bit, and then I'm sure Dr. Greenwell wants to talk as well. Journey to success is in place to be able to measure beyond just academic skills. And so I don't know that there's a correlation between what Journey to Success has intended to do and academic outcomes. It's a way to show all of their skills, including academic outcomes, in a different way. Okay. And so it might not show that it is improving academic outcomes because that's not what the intention is. The intention is that we are able to see the whole child in a different way other than just a standardized test. And so we're thinking through other skills that students need for the real world that a standardized test doesn't necessarily capture. And so that's what the Journey to Success is. And so we have KDE and OVEC and lots of other organizations reaching out to us to say, hey, you're doing great work. We want to come into JCPS and see this great work that you're doing with these vibrant learning experiences, because this is what we're moving towards as far as accountability is concerned.
Let me ask another question to follow up on that. That's very clarifying. If Journey to Success shows us the whole child, then why do we always partner it with academic outcomes?
Because in the education world, we need something to legitimize whether or not a student is successful. And sometimes the sentiment is that if they're not able to pass the standardized test or get to a certain level on the standardized test, then all of that other stuff is just fluff. But we don't believe that. We don't believe that standardized tests are the only measure that shows everything a student can do. And so we want to be able to have a measure that does show all of the skills that a student has and not just focus on a standardized test. So it's designed to be more comprehensive and to be a bigger picture of what a student knows and is able to do.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. Thank you.
And I would just add that at any workforce, when we're talking to our business partners and community partners, the things that they're wanting to see and expect to see are the very success skills that we're measuring. We've also added from the backpack of success skills to Journey to Success. We never had standardized rubrics. We didn't have validity training. We have Dr. Dossett's team working on that. And then we also didn't have standardized ways in which we were able to say that someone was validly trained on a panel. So there's a level of, while we raised expectations, we also raised the expectations on training, on validity, on the way that we're assessing students as well. So I would agree with all the things that Dr. Speak said. In addition to that is where the accountability model is starting to lean. And we know that teachers are the best judge of how students are doing. And in this way, we're able to build consistency in how they're seeing a child grow and how that child is moving on to the different transitional levels. And we know that there's consistency now across our schools. So I think we're getting closer to that. But to Dr. Speak's point, measuring how a child has grown is not always the easiest thing, which is why we're in education, and it's a human being looking at another human being and trying to make an assessment of it. But I think we're as close to having a good picture of that as we can.
When you talk about where accountability is leaning, who is held accountable when a child does not lean in the direction of success?
I think we all.
Academic success, that is.
I think we all are as a school district. That ownership of us comes not only on the teacher, but on the principal level, on the community. We all feel that, I think, ownership there. When I meant accountability, I meant the way that the state level accountability is moving towards more of a vibrant learning experience instead of that one snapshot.
I understand. I just want to make sure that we're not sort of playing a game of, I don't know what the game is. I don't play a lot of games. But, passing the buck, that's what I'm looking for. It sounds like if a child is not doing well academically, then we, put the emphasis on other parts of their being, which those are valid and those are good, but we want kids to go to college or to get jobs or to be productive citizens. And so I was curious about the language surrounding that. But thank you for answering my question. Thank you all for so much for this presentation. We appreciate your work, and we hope you have a great night. I'd like to receive a motion to accept the goals 1 through 3, elementary, middle, and high school academic readiness. Mr. Bass, seconded by Ms. Strange. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Dr. Yearwood will now introduce the recommendation for approval of tax rates for fiscal year 25-26.
Yes, I've asked Mr. Munzo, CFO, to come forward with this initiative.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time with you all tonight. The purpose of today's discussion is to set a new tax rate for the 25-26 school year. So the KRS 160.470 assigns authority to assign tax rates to the local Board of Education. The rate is limited to a rate that would cause our revenue in certain revenue categories to increase by 4%. If it exceeds that rate, then it would be subject to recall. If the board chooses a recallable rate, then they would be required to submit it to the county clerk by a date in August in order to have the county clerk time to put it on the ballot for that year. So the first thing, understanding the 4% rate means a rate that gives a certain revenue increase. The first aspect to understand about that is your revenue equals your rate times your assessments. Assessments are a huge part of this. As you might recall from me talking about this last year, assessments increased a lot last year, and this year they increased by 7% as well. So the section of Louisville that was reassessed during the current year are sections 5 and 6. They're in kind of a light blue or light purple color on the map. These sections include Beachmont, Fairdale, Highview, Iroquois, Newburgh, Prairie Village, those communities. So the assessment growth increased by 7% for this current tax year. As assessments go up, the rate required to achieve that 4% growth goes down. Since the assessment growth raised higher than the 4%, that means our suggested rate is going down as well. So we're recommending that we assess the 4% rate, which would be a revenue tax, a real estate tax of 71.7 cents per $100 of assessment, a personal property tax, which is personal property of business entities, that stays flat, stays the same at 73.5 cents per $100 of assessment. We maintain our existing motor vehicle tax, which is currently at the statutory max at 58.5 cents per $100 of assessment. And the net result of that is the 4% increase. So the 4% increase will bring about $36.5 million. A portion of that will go toward our building fund, which goes to support our facilities projects. And of the portion that stays in general fund, our largest expense is our direct front of classroom instruction. That's over 50% of our expenses in Jefferson County. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Is there a motion to approve the general fund tax rate of 71.7 cents per $100 assessed value on real property and 73.5 cents per $100 assessed value on personal property for fiscal year 25-26? Mr. Craig, seconded by Ms. Strange. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Munns. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus C, minus N, and minus K? Ms. Duncan? Seconded by Mr. Craig. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. We'll start with C. Board Member Duncan asked to pull down item C.
Well, this is in our organizational chart, and the proposal here is that we create a position called Special Assistant to the Superintendent. And I would just like for Dr. Yearwood to talk to us a little bit about who would be a candidate for this kind of position in terms of what you're looking for in this position.
Yes. Thank you, Board Member Duncan. No, as a new superintendent coming in, I lack the deep institutional knowledge that long-term insiders hold, right? So the special assistant, first of all, will provide that confidential counsel and context about things like district history, culture, politics, and personalities. By working alongside the chief of staff, they will work towards ensuring that the vision is carried out through departments without, I would say, being lost in the bureaucracy of that process. They would help with tracking initiatives. They would highlight barriers. They will keep me informed of misalignments. And so the special assistant will really help me to navigate formal and informal networks, both inside JCPS and also in the broader community. The role really is about protecting the district's investment in leadership, and they will ensure that, for me, I can spend less time managing distractions and more time driving results for students. So I'm looking at someone with experience within JCPS, someone that has been in leadership, with successful leadership within JCPS, because again, they'll be helping me to navigate JCPS as someone new coming in.
Would you consider people who are retired from JCPS in this role or present in the role?
Yeah, I call all bets are on. You know, what I want is the best fit for the position. You know, so if it's out, whoever it is, but it has to be someone with definite experience within JCPS.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'd like to, is there a motion to approve consent item C? Okay, Mr. Craig, second by Ms. Duncan, all in favor? Ayes have it, thank you. Item K, that is Mr. Everett.
This is probably for Dr. Munns. So when I was looking at the approval for the professional services contracts, 20,000 or more, what struck me was there are 18, and out of the 18, all 18 were sole source contracts. And so I just wanted to ask, like, do we feel like that is the best approach here, especially with the budget situation we're currently in? That's basically the gist of my question at the start.
I would say every one of the contracts has been vetted by our general counsel's office and our finance division, and determined that they conform with KRS 45A.
Sure.
Kentucky's model procurement code, which is adopted by the board as our model procurement code. It's hard to look at the way we comply with state law and see the work that goes into selecting those contracts. The team around here does incredible amounts of due diligence on every contract review. There are some contracts that we do that are more of a commodity look and feel. For example, a lot of the contracts that come out of finance have that kind of commoditizable look and feel. Those are items like, I regret it if they're listening, but our external audit, like our CPA firm audit, our banking, our credit card services, those sort of things there's a ready marketplace for those. But when you look at things that are more like student programming, items like curriculum, items like that, student experiences, those sort of things, they're very differentiated aspects to them that makes one very different than the other. And so they do qualify as single source. But when the divisions are reviewing these contracts, price goes into that factor. Trust me, everybody in JCPS unfortunately is bound by a budget, and these contracts have to fit within those budgets. They've heard me say that a lot. So I don't feel like this is something that would be a challenge because we're confined to a budget. So it's but they're also not necessarily commoditizable contracts.
Okay. So for example, there's one on here tonight for martial arts. And it was indicated that it was like the only one that we could get martial arts from. Is that?
It's a student program that teaches various life skills through a model using martial arts as the teaching method.
That makes sense to me. I guess my misunderstanding is like this is the only vendor that offers that service.
The determination was that they're not just a martial arts studio, that they have a niche that sets them apart from the rest of, if there is a thriving martial arts community in Louisville, I'm not aware, but this is what sets them apart as a sole source in that vein.
And then I guess my other question is, this is 100% sole source, at least tonight. Is that normal? I guess I should go look back at like, is it?
So the professional services tend to be pretty heavily on two non-allowable within state law, non-competitive purchasing techniques. One is sole source, especially on trademarked items, copyrighted items. Those are basically always sole source because somebody owns the copyright. The other is services of a licensed professional. If audit services were not readily available in a market for them, then that I could have used that instead of doing an RFP.
Yep.
But those two items are ones that you'll see a lot of in these kind of things. Now, don't get me wrong. The vast majority of things we spend money on outside of payroll and employee fringes are done through the RFP process. All the goods, curriculum items that like books, items like that.
Yeah.
All the supplies, those are all done through bids.
And if we were to alter this process, would it delay things incredibly? Would it change everything that we're doing? What would that look like?
The divisions who are selecting these contracts, they're doing due diligence. That I can assure you.
Okay.
If the board wanted to change our rules to where that was documented in a different way and attached to the contract, rather than being completed and then the purpose of what's attached to the contract is showing that we are complying with state law, which they do.
Yeah.
But what they're not doing is showing all their work.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the reality is, in my world, which includes purchasing, the showing all of your work can make you more susceptible to bid protests or people contesting an RFP award, those sort of things. So that comes with a risk, and that risk is administrative effort to do these contracts.
Dr. Schultz, I'd like to make a motion unless someone else would want to talk.
No, we don't want to talk.
Okay, cool. I'd like to make a motion. I'm fine approving these tonight, but I'd like to make a motion to just get a presentation of some sort of plan of just an alternative we could look at. Not saying we would necessarily do it, but just some alternatives based on maybe what other school districts do or other government entities.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve consent items N and K? Okay, Mr. Everett, seconded by Mr. Craig, all in favors? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Muntz.
Chair Schultz, I think he still had a motion. I think that's a separate motion that you're making.
Correct.
You want to restate it?
Yep.
Should it be a motion, or can we talk offline to establish a date and time on the planning calendar for the board, and to also more clearly define what the presentation should be, and to also determine if it has to be a presentation or if it can be an email?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, so
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, thank you.
That was his phone.
Is there a motion to receive the planning calendar? Mr. Everett, seconded by Ms. Strange, all in favor? Ayes have it. Are there any committee reports? Mr. Craig?
The Advisory Revenue Task Force has begun its work. The Revenue Advisory Task Force, did I say that right? We met for the first time last Monday. We're meeting again this coming Monday, 5:30 in this auditorium. We're anticipating meetings being every 2 to 3 weeks for the duration of this calendar year at least. Thank you all for your the membership that we have filled it out. It's a good group. We are beginning our work, I want everybody to understand this by taking a deep dive into what we're spending now and what we are taxing now. There are no preconceived notions about what the outcome of this work is going to be. We know we need more revenue, but we're going to have to show our work on what we're spending at the moment. And so I would expect the next two presentations at least to be deep dives on the budget, what we're spending today, and then what our human resource cost is at the moment at the next meeting before we start talking about at all what growth potential might be. So it's a quick overview, hoping to keep everybody abreast of this work as we go forward, but I would expect asking the chair and the superintendent to allow us to make an in-depth presentation to the full Board of Education with the results of our work by January or February. So thank you all.
Any other board reports? Ms. Duncan?
Well, since it's my birthday, my report is all about me. First, I want to say that I appreciate the recognition I received the other evening. It was brought to my house. I am a Kentucky Colonel, and my grandkids now call me Colonel Grandmother. Thank you. Then I made a trip to Medora Elementary and watched second grade classes perform these experiments. And I went into one of the classrooms, Miss Fleming's classroom at Medora, and had an opportunity to take part in the experiment myself. She allowed me, she shared that moment with me. So I just wanted to share that moment with all of us and have a little video that she took. That was, we were creating a volcano, and that was my great contribution to that lesson. Thank you very much. That was it.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan, and happy birthday again. I would like to take a moment and give kudos to Dr. Yearwood and Dr. Folk and the entire cabinet and team for an incredible opening day. It was a great start to the school year. Thank you. There are persons requesting to address the board. Ms. Callahan, if you would play the video now.
In accordance with Board Policy 01.421, the board expects that persons who have signed up to address the board will limit their remarks to the subject that they listed at the time they signed up, that their presentation will not include any defamatory or abusive remarks about the subject, and that they will present their remarks in a manner that is consistent with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Also, in accordance with board policy, the board reserves the right to limit, extend, or terminate discussion on any subject. Discussion of personnel matters is not permitted, as state law requires that personnel matters are within the sole authority of the superintendent. The speaker may not initiate charges or complaints against an individual district employee by name or position in order to ensure confidentiality and fairness for the employee. Speakers before the entire board are not allowed to use props, displays, or any other objects during their remarks. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the board and may not share these minutes with any other speaker. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a bell will sound once. You will then have 30 seconds to finish your statement. At the end of 3 minutes, the bell will sound twice, indicating that your time is up. The superintendent will look into the speaker's issues and, if necessary, represent the board in following up or recommend action to the board. The full board policy concerning public participation in open meetings is available for viewing on our website and at
Kumar Rashad.
All right. Good evening, board members. Chairman Shaw, Superintendent Yearwood. My name is Kumar Rashad, high school math teacher, also the vice president of Jefferson County Teachers Association. And I'm just here tonight just to publicly professionally, personally, welcome you, Dr. Yearwood, into our city, into our community. It is a great opportunity for our students, especially the ones who are the most marginalized, to be able to look up and see someone who they can aspire to be and setting a role model. So I'm really appreciative of that, all of that, you know, and I'm here to just offer my support or our support that we walk side by side together through all of the things that we got to go through. You know, there's going to be a lot of challenges, and we need to walk through those challenges together. Just first of all, happy birthday over there, right on. Okay, cool. Now I'm back on. You know, today in my classroom, I had a conversation with a student of mine, and conversation was about what is not what is the importance of school. Is school important? That was the main conversation. And of course, the student who I was speaking to, he was on the opposing side of this, right? And of course, I'm on the affirmative. But I tell you something about this student, man. Linda, I'm trying to tell you, he had me against the ropes a little bit in this conversation. This man is just such a debater. So you just look at kids like that and like, hold on, this guy has so many skills that we're not pouring into. By the way, my school is about 70% black men, so that tips, you know, I'm thinking about those numbers from earlier. But the conversation that the student and I had started from, you know, him asking me, why do I need to learn systems in this math class? Well, you're learning systems every single day. Everything you do is part of a system. Things are being set up that sometimes you fall into and sometimes you may have to change. So, sometimes they're good. So we had a long conversation about systems, and it just reminds me, you know, the student told me about how he was making money, not with a regular job, but I won't go all the way there, but the student was making some money, but he said, Mr. Rashad, what can you show me and do for me now? And that's the important thing we need to think about. Last sentence. That's the important thing that we need to think about, because a lot of our students can't wait 4, 5, 8 years after they graduate high school and graduate college. They really need to find something that's going to get them hooked in so they can be a benefit to their community right now. And I'm very proud that we're entering a partnership where I feel we're going to be able to address those needs and really reach all of our students. So good luck and thank you so far. Shout out Dr. Marshall for that and equity and vision that put.
Elena Newman.
Good evening. So my name is Elena, and some of you have probably seen or heard my name recently, but I am a proud Courage Taylor Montessori parent. My family has been part of the Courage Taylor community since the 2021-22 school year, and we experienced our first instance of violence just one school year later. I am tired. Our parents and staff are exhausted, and since learning I would be able to speak at this meeting, I worked to talk to staff and parents about what it has been like to be part of CTM and how they have felt following the last week or so of school. I could provide a number of anecdotes from individuals who love our school and students but question if they matter to the district and community at large. Second graders who know that yellow tape means death and the brave faces our teachers and staff must use in order to preserve the innocence of our kids. The theme of our PTA this year was community. The hope was to not just build camaraderie between families and the school, but to also connect us to the community at large in hopes that shared values and beliefs could curb some of the ongoing issues we have faced yearly. We know that it will take a conscious effort from all and not just those affected to have the greatest impact. So what is our ask? Well, it's safety. Housing is a right. As much as affordable housing is a right, I believe our children have the right to feel safe at school. The fence of our school that backs up to the City View neighborhood is no longer sufficient. When shots ring out, what our staff and students need is time. A stronger, sturdier, more secure barrier, a wall perhaps, we're not sure, but something that may be helpful to get them just enough time to get inside. We also know that additional surveillance, which could just be additional cameras on the perimeter of the school, may also aid in reducing the violence that surrounds our school. The expectation isn't that the district or school board stop gun violence. That isn't your job. Don't worry. Those whose job it is will be hearing from me soon enough. However, it is your job to consider every student, every staff member, every school in this district. Our school is hurting. There are not enough lunches and snack carts to ease the harm done. I promise you, I don't mind to go at it alone. And I am often one to ask for forgiveness and not permission. But it would be nice to have support to show our school community that they are seen and that they matter. I created a packet. It had my words today, but also every incident report I've received from our principal since 2022, 2023. These are just beginning ideas, and we are ready to strategize and collab with whomever will on effective change. The question is, will you help us? Thank you for your time.
Maddie Shepherd. Thank you.
Hello, board members. I'm Maddie Shepherd, the president of the Jefferson County Teachers Association. I want to first offer thanks to everyone in the JCPS team that put in the work to make sure that this school year is off to a great start. I had the pleasure of spending the first day at one of our new schools, a beautiful school in a beautiful community, Perry Elementary. I want to thank the principal, Keisha Fulson, for welcoming me into the school and offer shout outs to all the teachers and the JCTA members at Perry Elementary who are changing lives every day. Diana Rawls, one of our members, was standing in the cafeteria helping kids navigate their way to the classroom and asking them if they were still the geniuses they were when they left her last year. Fourth grade teacher Christina Evans, who's one of our BSK committee members, was getting to know learners and forming her fourth grade team, making sure fourth graders were going to show up for each other and letting them know she was going to show up for them. This school uses the Ron Clark Academy house system where every student, teacher, and at Perry, bus driver, school security administrator, front office staff, nutrition staff member, even their board member, Gail Logan Strange, spins the wheel to find out what house they're in. I am in House Revere. And I think Gail is in the yellow house. The yellow house, I forget what that one's called. This builds a sense of belonging, community, and that's what Perry is all about. Perry was a place where the staff were so happy to see the kids, passionate about the difference they're making, organized and focused about what they have to get done this year. So I want to thank all of our members at Perry, the staff at Perry that are showing up every day to make Louisville a better place. I didn't, have any other business to offer tonight, and I say when I don't have that, I just want to tell great stories about things happening in JCPS. I got to live my best life at Perry. I walked like 14,000 steps running to all the classrooms, making sure the kids had their tags to get home from school on time. Again, thanks to the operations team that contributed to making sure that system went off without a hitch. So those were some great stories about Perry that day. Thanks.
Chuck Love. Chuck Love. Nicole Humphrey.
Good evening. I actually had a couple things that I was going to say tonight, but I was approached by one of my members who could not be here tonight but wanted me to read her statement. And before I do that, again, a big thanks to everybody here. Dr. Falk, we could not have done it without you, and everybody on your team and everybody here tonight. I did manage to make it to 9 schools in the first couple days of the start of the school year, and it was very impressive. There was definitely obstacles that front office staff was trying to deal with people coming in and wanting to enroll students and trying to get everybody situated. And I had one clerk look at me and she goes, "I'm so sorry." And I told her, I was like, "Don't be sorry. I know what you're going through. I've been there. I've done it." I said, "I just appreciate that you're here and you're working hard." And so, and just leaning into that and helping where we could. So, with that being said, I do want to read the statement that Shannon Cook, one of the employees here with JCPS and a member of JCA ESP, sent to me to read for her tonight. It starts out, "Good evening, my name is Shannon Cook, and I have been a clerk with JCPS for 17 years. I chose this profession because I enjoy being with students, and it worked well with my children's school schedule. I love being a clerk in my school, but a clerk position has a lot of responsibilities for the salary that we receive. We are the front line for our schools. We are the first impressions of the school to parents and to visitors. We handle parents' calls and drop-ins. We handle sick kids and calling home. We input computer data and attendance and so much more. In Kentucky, the median income for a single person is $31,871, and an average income is $34,960. After 17 years of employment, my salary is $27,678. If I were to lose my spouse's income, I could no longer afford to continue working for JCPS, and at the age of 51, where would I be employable? There are many single parents working as clerks in JCPS because their jobs allow parents to be at home with their children instead of having to worry about the cost of daycare and after-school programs, but they are living paycheck to paycheck and barely getting by. I implore you to please consider these extremely valuable employees and give them an earnest salary. Please trust that when I say that we earn every penny. Thank you so much for your time and consideration." That was a statement from Shannon Cook, a JCPS employee and JCA ESP member. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Everett?
Yeah, just quickly before we wrap, I wanted to recognize Mark Hebert on his last meeting here and all of his time here at JCPS. So thank you and congratulations on retirement.
Congratulations, Mr. Hebert. This is your second retirement? Okay, all right. Well, we look forward to your next career. Happy sailing. Congratulations. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Craig, seconded by Mr. Everett, all in favor. Ayes have it. Thank you. Have a good night.